Yes.
Yep.
As a member of the Prince Edward County Board of Supervisors, I am disclosing that may have a personal interest in the proposed ordinance for payment of a one-time bonus to county employees and officers, as I am an officer of Prince Edward County. As I am a member of a group of 3 or more persons, the members of which are affected by the transaction, namely officers of the county of Prince Edward, I am able to participate in the approval of the ordinance fairly, objectively, and in the public interest. I have filed a statement of disclosure with the Office of the Prince Edward County Administrator, a copy of which is available for public review.
Harvey?
As a member of the Prince Edward County Board of Supervisors, I'm disclosing that I may have a personal, interest in the proposed ordinance pertaining to a one-time bonus to county employees and officers, as I am an officer of Prince Edward County. As I am a member of a group of 3 or more persons, the members of which are affected by the transaction, namely officers of the county of Prince Edward, I am able to participate in the approval of the ordinance fairly, objectively, and in the public interest. I filed a statement of disclosure with the Office of the Prince Edward County Administrator, a copy of which is available in public review.
Jerry?
As a member of the Prince Edward County Board of Supervisors, I am disclosing that I may have a personal interest in the proposed ordinance for payment of a one-time bonus to county employees and officers, as I am an officer of Prince Edward County. As I am a member of a group of 3 or more persons, the member of which are affected by the transaction, namely officers of the county of Prince Edward, I am able to participate in the approval of the ordinance fairly, objectively, and in the public interest. I have filed a statement of disclosure with the Office of Prince Edward County Administrator, a copy of which is available for public review.
Lou?
As I am a member of Prince Edward County Board of Supervisors, I am disclosing that I may have a personal interest in the proposed ordinance of payment of a one-time bonus to the county employees and officers, as I am an officer of Prince Edward County. As I am a member of a group of 3 or more persons, the members of which are affected by the transaction, namely officers of the county of Prince Edward, I am able to participate in the approval of the ordinance fairly, objectively, and in public interest. I have filed a statement of disclosure with the Office of the Prince Edward County Administrator, a copy of which is available for public review.
As a member of Prince Edward County Board of Supervisors, I'm disclosing that I have a personal interest in the proposed ordinance of the payment of a one-time bonus to county employees and officers, as I am an officer of Prince Edward County. As a member of a group of 3 or more persons, the members of which affected by this transaction, namely officers of Prince Edward County, I am able to participate in the approval of the ordinance fairly, objectively, and in the public interest. I have filed a statement of disclosure with the Office of the Prince Edward County Administrator, and a copy is available upon review. Anything else? All right. At this time, we're going to move to recognitions. Do we have any tonight, Sarah? No. All right. Public participation. Ms. Megan Clark.
Good evening to everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I wanted to speak with you very briefly. Is it proper protocol to leave this up, or may I take it?
Take it down if you want to.
It came to my attention that there was some information that the Board of Supervisors members may have been privy to that is incorrect. And I wanted to come and clarify that and answer any questions that you all might have. Came to my attention that it was stated that I will not, or my office of the Commonwealth's Attorney, will not prosecute littering cases. And the person who said it to me, I was thankful that this person came forward to get the information directly from me, and I said, that is absolutely not what I said. I did say that some of these cases may be more difficult to prove. As you all are aware, littering is a Class 1 misdemeanor. That is something that is more recent. Therefore, it is a jailable offense. it is a jailable offense, it is something that the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office will prosecute. The issue is that we have to prove cases beyond a reasonable doubt. And a lot of times, we are being told of people's trash being found on the side of the road. And so someone will go and get something out of the trash that has a person's name on it. And therefore, they want the person whose name is found to be prosecuted for littering. Simply having a bag of trash on the side of the road with someone's name on it is not going to allow us to prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt. And so that is what I said. More than willing to prosecute these cases. My deputy Commonwealth's attorney is here tonight, Wendy Hanna, who has prosecuted these cases. And that was one case that we remember in particular, Trooper Ferris brought to us, where a concerned citizen saw someone on the side of the highway dumping boxes, literally probably somewhere between 30 and 40 boxes on the side of the road. That person contacted law enforcement, followed the vehicle, and then we were able to subpoena that person to court. We were able to then have Trooper Ferris subpoenaed to court, and he actually saw these individuals littering, made them go back and pick up the boxes, and that's a prosecutable offense. It is something that we are able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. If I feel, or if my office feels that we cannot prove something beyond a reasonable doubt, we have an ethical duty not to bring those charges. And I wish that it was somewhat of a strict liability offense, but it is not, okay? The only thing that gets into a presumption is if someone is seen throwing trash from their window, the registered owner of that vehicle is presumed to be the person responsible for that and can be charged. However, it is a rebuttable presumption. And so if that person comes back and says, I was not driving the car that day, another individual was, that's going to be a defense. Not only with littering, but with anything. I always say, and some people may think that I'm just saying it, but if you have a question about something with my office, please contact me. On the second floor of the courthouse, you can email me. You all have my cell phone number. If you don't have my cell phone number, ask me for it. I'm not going to put it out there in public, just saying. Because I don't like these types of conversations. I don't like playing the telephone game. I don't like it when someone believes that I'm not doing what it is that I have been charged with the duty of doing. And so this is one of the situations where I am able to clarify it with you all. There are probably other situations that have taken place that I haven't been able to clarify. Some things I don't feel it's necessary to clarify, but I did feel it necessary to clarify this, especially with the members of the board. I actually talked to Mr. Emmert and said, hey, let's put some folks together. I'll go out and clean the side of the road. I do my volunteer activities anyway, and so that's just going to be added to the list. I do take it seriously. We will prosecute it, but we simply have to be able to prove the case. So with that being said, any questions?
Any questions from the board?
No.
Any questions from the public as far as that's concerned?
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ken Cook. Scott's here.
Please say so. Yeah, we can understand you better.
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the board, my name is Ken Cook. I reside at 288 Harris Creek Road in Prospect, Virginia. Lived there most of my adult life. My concern tonight is what I'm bringing from the board is the entrance at the Dollar General, which happens to be on Harris Creek Road, or the road that I live on. I did some research today on it. I've been having a problem with it for a while because if you ever have been on that road, if you're coming south on Harris Creek Road going towards 460, there's a sharp curve right at the entrance at Dollar General. Well, when you get around that curve, people can't see when they're coming out of Dollar General. They pull that right in front of you, and there's been several instances where I've had to just slam on my brakes, lock my truck up, or car, whatever I am, keep from hitting people. So when I went there today, I took some pictures, but I'm not able to share that from my phone. They said I was going to be able to show you on the phone, but I'm not able to. When I went to the intersection, I stopped where the stop, where they wrote would stop in the road in the parking lot where you stop before you turn. And I took pictures looking back to the left, which is the worst part of it. And I took a laser rangefinder with me, and I was sitting in my truck where it said stop. And the furthest you could see from my truck down the road was 45 yards or 135 feet. But that was to the opposite side of the road, which the traffic is not gonna be coming up, it's gonna be coming up on the inside of the road. When I ranged that, it was only 95 feet that you could see from that stop place in the road where they had it marked to that curve. And then if you're looking back from Dollar General back towards 460, I ranged it that way. When I ranged it that way, the furthest you could see was 231 feet. But you cannot see 460 intersection from that stop where they tell you to stop. To be able to see that, you have to creep out into the road, past where they marked where you stop, to be able to see within your nose if your vehicle is actually in the road, in the lane coming people coming from your left. So when I did some research today and I looked, I called the gentleman first because I went up on the VDOT website and tried to find some things on commercial interests. I couldn't find a whole lot of information there without having to go into different things. There's a thing called Road Design Manual, and then I went to that, and it's like 1,000 pages to that. So I was able to find a reference to commercial interests on Appendix F of that manual. But anyway, I was talking to a gentleman this morning that does road construction, and he's also put in hundreds of commercial interests for people. He still told me that what he was always told when he built a commercial interest for a road was that if the line of sight, either way, when you come to a stop and to turn it onto the highway, has to be 10 times the speed limit. So if the speed limit is 55, it's 550 feet. You have to be able to see either way. If it's 45, it's 450 feet. Well, I went up on Virginia, VDOT's website and looked up what the speed limit for roads that don't have a posted speed limit sign. Harris Creek Road does not have a posted speed limit sign on it. So if it's not posted, it's 55 miles an hour. Now maybe the officers here, they got more experience with that than I do, but they can verify that. But if it's 55, that's 550 feet. You're supposed to be able to see either way. Well, when I ranged it this morning, as I stopped at the stop sign, like I said, it was only like 135 feet. That was across the road looking to your left, and only 213 feet looking to your right. So I'm asking the board to either contact VDOT or go out there yourselves and look at this intersection and see, because I'm afraid that one day there's going to be a terrible accident right there. Especially people coming south on Harris Creek Road going towards 460. And believe me, I don't know why people fly on that road. They see how fast they can get when they get past my houses. I only live like 0.2 of a mile down Harris Creek Road from 460. And there's a curve right by my house, and when they come around that curve, there's some time when I got the windows open, you can hear them floorboarding it. They're trying to get to the side before they get to the 460. And I'm just afraid one day there's going to be a bad accident right there where somebody gets seriously hurt or even killed. And I would like to see the board either contact VDOT to take care of this matter, because it's going to have to be something. Either the banks will have to be shaved down or something's going to have to be done. And I don't think it was done on purpose, but I don't think the commercial interest there is in compliance with state law. Thank you all for your time.
Are there any questions from the board? Or, go ahead, Luke.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
You see us.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna call on Scott in a minute, I was making sure he's here.
Get together, check it together, then we'll go forward.
Yeah, because I just live right next to it. I live 0.2 miles from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll look at it.
Okay.
Just give me a call.
Your comments are interesting because my district is in the town, and whenever somebody, complains about a traffic thing, I just give them the telephone number for the town and have them call them. But because it was mentioned to me, before the meeting tonight, just had a discussion of it with the VDOT man there, and he's always helpful, so forth, and said he would look into it.
I appreciate that.
But I mean, the timing is just, I just said it tonight to him.
Okay.
Lou, you had a comment?
No, I
You just going to point him out?
All right, well, I appreciate y'all's time, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hood Frazier.
Hey, you.
I want to thank the board for allowing me the opportunity to come in and speak with you. I'm a longtime, I'm Hood Frazier, I'm a resident of the Lockett District and live in Rice, Virginia. Co-director of the Sunrise Learning Center, which I appreciate you all supporting me in getting that off the ground when we first started it. And I'm also a professor in residence through JMU with Prince Edward Schools. And so I've been working with the schools for the last few years, help students go to college, provide scholarship information, also do some work with the teachers as well. And I came here tonight really because I have 4 grandkids that are in the school system, and I would like to really support and push for more funding for our schools. Well, not just funding for our schools, I should not say that, really no funding for the schools, but to invest in our schools. To invest, take the opportunity to invest in the future for our children. They may be 20% of the population, but they're 100% of our future. And I know there are proposals currently to increase, to do renovations of the elementary school, which I wholeheartedly support, as well as supporting increasing funding for the other schools as well as for our teachers, so that we can keep good teachers in the area. And if we have new buildings, we can hopefully use that as a way to help maintain good teaching in the area as well. So those are I just wanted to really express myself with you all about that. I know that Halifax had a new school. They put a proposal together, and I believe it was a 5-cent increase that they advocated for, and used it to build a new high school in Halifax County. I know we've got new schools in Cumberland gone into existence in Buckingham, and I think it's high time that we really look at putting more funding into our schools here too. I'm working closely with the school, Dr. Johnson, Dr. Wallace, and I'm seeing really good things happening as well. We're looking at more project-based learning, more assessments. I think we're really starting to make the turn. The pandemic has been tough on everybody, and especially on the students and their parents. And our schools can be draws for our community. If we have good schools in the area, we're going to be attracting more families in here and more businesses. So it's a win-win in that sense. So I just really wanted to come and express my support for our schools and also for increased funding for them as well. So thank you for this opportunity.
One way you can help down the road is our county administrator, who's wonderful about figures and so forth, came up with the idea, and I think Bobby brought it up too, of adding a 1% sales tax to community. And the appeal to that was Buckingham, Cumberland, Appomattox, and so forth, come here to shop. And so it won't all come out of our pocket. It'll come out of those people. But we cannot decree that. In other words, it has to be voted on. The public, and it will be coming up. But what he figured, and please correct me, Doug, if I'm wrong on any of these figures, but the estimate is that it would raise about, I think, $250,000 a year. And what that would do is, that would qualify us to borrow $30 million over 20 years at 4%. Now, the $30 million would be on the front end. And that would go towards redoing the schools and so forth. I don't think building a new school is the answer, because I've traveled and got their schools in Europe and whatnot, and I'm sure you probably know this too, that are 400 and 500 years old, but they're in good shape, but they have been maintained. These have not been maintained. And anyway, I think that a complete redo of the schools, a new roof and all that would solve those problems. But I think the physical plan is just about as more important than the actual education part of it, as far as what we have to do to improve the schools.
I agree with you that it would be nice to have improved, buildings and so forth. But I do think that if we look at new schools, the research shows that actually teachers that go into new schools tend to stay. That's a plus.
Well,
Also, if we're looking at why a 1 cent, why not a 2 cent or a 3 cent? Can we do that? Could we look at also increasing maybe tax increase as well for real estate tax? Because that's been a while since that's been increased. I know that's not popular with a lot of folks.
Well, it's not only not popular, I mean, you have to juggle it and there are prices, but there's a lot of people, I have found out, the gentleman from Prospect, I heard a story the other day about somebody in Prospect. There was a lady that owned a farm there, and her husband had died and she couldn't farm it, and she lived on Social Security. And she had basically 3 things that are Social Security had to pay for: food, medical, and taxes. And when one went up, the other suffered. But she was trying to hang on to the farm for her grandson, who was, I think, a junior in high school. And she lost out. She had a son before he got to the point where he could take it over. So, I mean, it's a juggle. It's a difficult juggle, too, as far as raising taxes, because you do penalize some people, like that.
Right, but you also, if you increase, again, if you're building quality schools in the area, you're gonna be attracting other businesses and other people to come to you, too.
I understand. That's what I'm saying. It's a difficult.
It is.
It's a difficult equation. But
there are lots of, and I think there's a real groundswell of support right now for increasing.
well, I hope they'll vote that way, because as I say, we can do that. You mentioned earlier on, obviously I know you, but I come out to the districts and look at things, as I did. You're in the Rice district, and that's not my district, but I was very interested in what you were doing before. And if I came out there, I spent time there, and I defended the situation, because you had a lot of neighbors that, as far as I was concerned, were not making rational complaints about it.
I think it's the water, but it could be something else. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Yes, sir. At this time, Josh Blakely.
Members of the Board of Supervisors, County Administrator Stanley, and members of the public. I've been on a mission these past few months to make the case for addressing deficiencies in our educational facilities. I've spoken here in front of this board with our county planning commission and at the school board. Many of those members I'm happy to see here tonight. I've contacted people on the side between meetings to get updates, and I've organized community members to support your efforts. But tonight, I don't think I actually need to continue to tell you about the facilities. I suspect you get the point by now. A new elementary school, or a renovated elementary school, and indeed, new facilities all around are desperately needed. I know that, we know that, and we all know that you know that. What I'm hoping we hear about tonight is how we get this done. Before I go into what I hope for out of the Board of Supervisors in funding these initiatives, I'd like to talk with you a bit about why I have hope in the Board of Supervisors in the first place. There are many in our world today who have reached an apathetic or even hostile point when it comes to decision-making and authority. There are people who would sooner see the world fall apart than pay anything more than what they are currently. But that's not how we do things here in Central Virginia. That's not who my mother raised me to be, and I know that's not how others in my community have been raised. Around here, we look after one another. Around here, we take care of each other. Around here, when my neighbor is hungry, we make sure they have something to eat on their table. Around here, when someone can't pay their bills, we make sure they can make ends meet way before the rent is due. Around here, when someone blows a tire, we pull over to help them change it. In this community, in Prince Edward County, we care enough about our neighbors to make sure they have what they need, even when that means we have to pinch a few more pennies in our own homes. This is what it means to live in a small community, particularly here in the South. These are the values I was taught in the community, in the church, and in school. We see this play out over and over again. When ice storms bring down trees, neighbors pitch in to clear roads. When families can't afford basic school supplies, neighbors pitch in to make sure kids have pencils and backpacks. And when our neighborhood school is in serious disrepair as it is now, I know my neighbors will pitch in to fix it because around here, we take care of each other. We don't wait for Richmond to say it's okay to care about one another. We start with caring about each other, and Richmond can catch up to us. We don't wait for someone on high to bless us with money that comes with strings attached. We roll up our sleeves and get building. We are a caring community. That's who we are in Central Virginia. So I know you all will be discussing a lot of options tonight for funding. I know that a tax referendum is on the table. I've followed these discussions very closely, and I'm well aware of the fraught landscape into which I'm wading. All I'm saying is, remember who we are and how we work around here. If we can fund any, all, or even most of the improvements to the schools with reserves or already existing funding sources, then we should do that. Don't wait on Richmond to tell us whether we are allowed to fix our schools. Let's get to work right now to make this a better place around here. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin Pope.
Thank you. I'm Justin Pope. I live on High Street in Farmville. I have two daughters at Prince Edward Elementary School, very proud of, and also work as the chief of staff at Longwood, which I'm proud to call Prince Edward's largest employer for overall, and in terms of 2/3 of our employees who are residents of Prince Edward County. I just wanted to say, I've spoken at previous iterations as this process has moved forward, and I don't want to repeat myself too much. I simply wanted to walk the walk when I said that there are many of us in this community who are serious about how committed we are to this process and seeing it through and encouraging you through it. And I'm really grateful that this process is moving forward, and especially appreciative to Doug for all the hard work that he's done to present some good options that I think that we can act on as a community. I do firmly believe that there is and can be widespread agreement in our community around the need and the importance and the goodness of moving forward to improve the physical quality of schools alongside the other investments that we need to make. It is really, truly something that we can rally around. I think we all agree there's need, we all agree there's time, that it's time, we all agree that we need to get moving because the physical condition of the schools isn't going to get any better with the time it's now. And I think we can take pride in being a part of something that really can unite this community around something we all agree on. Some of you may have been, or some of you were, the the Governor's Summit on Rural Prosperity at Longwood last week, which was an interesting view of a lot of the challenges that we face here in Southside, Southwest Virginia too. And the Weldon Cooper Population Research Institute at UVA gave a presentation, which was really interesting. One particular thing, it was certainly a reminder that Southside has, in fairly recent history, been a place that's been growing, and it certainly can be again. It was also a reminder of how much the challenge of attracting and retaining young families is going to be determinative of the future of Prince Edward and counties like it. The number of people teleworking is accelerating rapidly between 2000 and 2019 in Virginia, and it has accelerated, of course, for obvious reasons, much more rapidly since then. And the point of the presentation last week was that what people are looking for is a place to live and raise a family, good quality of life. We have that, a great place to live, and to raise a family, and an essential part of that is quality schools. And so we all, I think, know that the physical appearance and condition of the schools is not the whole story, but it's a very, very important story. We have students who go in and they see a quality building that's been invested in, and it underscores that the work that they're doing is important. Same for the teachers who work there. Same for the teachers who are thinking about working there, checking it out, thinking about moving to our community. Same for the young family that's coming, thinking about setting up here, starting a business. This is an investment that is really, really important. I have great faith in Doug to guide this process and present a range of options and how to do this. It's our job as citizens to be involved in that discussion, and your job to figure out what exactly the best course forward is. But I just wanted you all to hear from me as a parent and as a part of the leadership at Longwood, that we are fully supportive of this process and really believe it can be a good uplifting and uniting thing for our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, Justin, I think it'll be interesting in that both the Republicans and the Democrats seem to finally beginning to get the message at the state level. And both of them have made promises as far as educational funds, which I think we all need to push to hold them to as much of that as possible. And you guys actually have more knowledge of it than we do, but anything that you can suggest to us that we can do along those lines, because they promised, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think Longwood will certainly try to be helpful as this process moves forward. I can certainly commit to that. I think we and you all have good relationships on both sides of the aisle, and that will be important. We're probably in a period of divided government. The thing that gives me hope is, you know, we're divided about a lot of things in this country. I don't think, and we're divided about a lot of issues related to education, but I don't think we're actually divided about, you know, the issues I was just saying, that the future for places like Prince Edward and Southside really, really depends on investing in education, giving people, young families, a reason to come here and grow. I don't think that's among the issues that are in great political dispute, so I'm optimistic that if we speak together and coordinate and show and demonstrate to Richmond that this is something that's important to our community, that it's not an issue that's dividing us, I'm confident that we will be successful.
Thank you. Any other questions or from the board? Thank you.
Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Is there any other participation from the audience that did not sign up? If not, I'm going to close that part of this. We'll move to the comments. Ms. Pride.
Good evening, everyone. We thank you for coming to participate in our meeting. Please enjoy.
I'll just say thank you to everyone that's here. It's nice to see a full house. Thanks for taking part in this government. Ms. Patty Cooper.
I'd like to say welcome. Happy to see you all here and to hear your concerns for the school. And I believe our board is just as concerned for the schools as well. Thank you.
I just want to say good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out, and thank you those that participated and shared your feelings and your concerns. We need to hear from you, and we do appreciate it. Thank you.
Jim.
Just to add to what you said, it's most helpful when you come and voice your opinions and suggestions and so forth. We do listen.
Bobby? Jerry?
Thank everyone for being here and those that participated in the public speaking. Thank you for your voice. We really appreciate that.
Lou?
I'm glad to see everyone. I do appreciate everyone's comments. Hope you'll come back and keep us posted. Thank you.
All right, we're to the consent agenda. I think everyone has a copy of it. Are there any additions or deletions to the actual consent agenda?
Move that we approve the consent agenda.
Been a motion made and probably seconded. I guess I have to call it roll call. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bobby? Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou?
Yes.
So moved. Budget announcements.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you've got a request for 2 budget amendments for the fiscal year FY '22. The Sheriff's Department first received a donation amount of $500 for their canine program from the Farmville Lions Club. They're requesting those funds be appropriated into the animal care line. I don't know if you want to take them together. The second one is the Sheriff's Department received an insurance payment from Baycorp in the amount of $13,950 for a totaled 2017 Ford Explorer. They're currently requesting that money be appropriated to their motor vehicle line to purchase a replacement.
Is there a motion to do these together?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been probably made and second to lump these two together. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bobby? Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou?
Yes.
So moved. I guess we're up to ARPA, aren't we? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Actually, the next budget amendment is a request from Prince Edward County Public Schools for appropriations totaling $375,321.81 to the school operating budget. The funds are a combination of state and federal reimbursement grants, no county match required. The recommendation is to act on the appropriations for the new funding in the amount of $23,778.73 and table until December of the carryover appropriations. Those are denoted in your packet with the asterisks, pending completion of the audit field work. That is scheduled for, I believe, 2 weeks from yesterday to complete that.
Are there any questions? Is there a motion to? Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. All right, go ahead. So moved. Is there a second?
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Does it says table into December?
Yes, ma'am, that's the motion,
Oh, okay.
recommended motion. To approve the 23,000
Yeah.
and table the other ones.
Okay. Second.
All right, it has been made and properly second. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim? Yes. Bobby? Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou?
Yes.
All right, this time we're a few minutes late. We're gonna go to the public hearing. I'm gonna turn it over to Doug and let him read, and you're, there we go. Robbie, you ready?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the county received an application by Standing River Outdoor Adventures for special use permit to operate a commercial outdoor sports and recreation facility with lodging and a restaurant group hub on 36.440 acres located on Fairway Road in West Virginia. This parcel is owned by agricultural, and these uses require a special use permit to locate and operate. This public hearing was properly advertised in the Farmville Herald, and adjoining property owners were notified. My office has received no comments from those advertisements. The Planning Commission held their advisory hearing on October 19th. No one spoke in opposition then, and at that time, they unanimously recommended approval with 17 conditions that you have in your packet. This to you for public hearing. The applicant is here tonight and will probably add a lot more. So again, in your packet, you have the application with the site plan and the staff recommended conditions, which the planning commission added one for a total of 17 conditions.
No opposition?
No opposition, sir. I'll be glad to answer any questions. VDOT has reviewed this entrance, and the current entrance is suitable for this application.
Scott, I guess I'm asking you, the low-volume commercial entrance is not required to be paved, is that correct?
Top of my head, I'm not 100% sure. There's so many different types of entrances. I can double check and let you guys know tomorrow.
Just wondered, I know that it used to be that all of them were, I didn't know if that was,
I want to say only residential is the only one that could be gravel these days. But I don't want to say that it's, fact.
Understand.
Without checking.
any questions from the board? To Robbie?
I'd just like to say it is very unique, the setup that the Outdoor Adventure has there. I thank him for bringing me out, let me get a tour of the place and the teepees and the cabins and the new distillery, all kinds of things. It's very unique, and it will surely bring revenue to Prince Edward County.
All right, I guess this time I'm going to open the special use permit from the, is anyone from the, would like to speak to, for, or against?
I can speak for it.
Go ahead, Mark. I think Mark Smith. While you're coming, I'm just going to ask Bobby, everything that went through, you said unanimous through the planning commission.
Good evening, board. Thank you again for having us tonight. So again, my name is Mark Smith. I'm the president and owner of Sandy River Outdoor Adventures. And we're just excited to be here in our county and look forward to growing with you. We have a few of our employees that are here tonight, just as excited as I am. I'm glad to answer any questions that you may have about what we are intending to do over there. But I can tell you briefly that we are just going to continue to do what we're doing, just going to do it better and bigger. And it's going to be done on the Sandy River Reservoir this time. So we get to really keep that name, Sandy River Outdoor Adventures. We were just off the river before, but we're on it now.
Anything from the public? I guess that time I'm going to close the public part. All right, board. Any questions?
I move that the board approve the special use permit.
I second.
It has been properly made and second. Before I call, are there any questions from the board for Mark or anyone else while we're?
Just clarification, Mr. Chairman.
There you go.
Supervisor Townsend, just want to clarify that your motion includes the recommendation
Yes.
of conditions by the planning commission.
Yes.
All right, then it's been properly made and second. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bobby? Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou?
Yes.
So moved.
Keep up the great work.
Oh, thank you.
Keep the money coming in. Keep the money coming in.
Thank you, I will. I appreciate it. I'll try to, but I really appreciate it. You guys do great. Thank you, board.
Thank you.
The renderings that you provided, I mean, it's beautiful.
It will be, yes, sir. It's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be fun.
I guess we need to do is B, that's you.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm gonna turn it over to Doug for the ARPA.
As the board is aware, the County of Prince Edward is slated to receive a total of $4,429,021 in funding for the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA. The funding bill received in two disbursements of $2,214,510.50, 1 year apart. Funds must be used in one of the eligible use categories specified in the American Response Plan Act. As with CARES Act funds, the expenditure of ARPA funds must follow stringent guidelines and has restrictions. There are 5 primary ways that recovery funds can be spent. Number 1, to support public health response. fund COVID-19 mitigation efforts, medical expenses, behavioral health care, and certain public health and safety staff. Number 2, to address negative economic impacts, responds to economic harms to workers, families, small business, and nonprofits, or impacted industries, and rehiring of public sector workers. 3, to replace public sector revenue loss, use funds to provide government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue experienced during the pandemic. 4, premium pay for essential workers, offer additional support to those who have and will bear the greatest health risk because of their service in critical infrastructure. Funds can be used retroactively back to January 27 of 2020. And 5, water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. Make necessary investments to improve access to clean drinking water, invest in wastewater and stormwater infrastructure, and provide unserved or underserved locations with new or expanded broadband access. ARPA's fiscal recovery funds explicitly encourage direct public input in the allocation and prioritization of fund use. The Treasury urges state, territorial, tribal, and local governments to engage their constituents and communities in developing plans to use these payments, given the scale of funding and its potential to catalyze broader recovery and rebuilding. To start the process for public input, again, emphasizing start the process, the board has authorized a public hearing for this meeting to receive input on what priorities should be considered for the expenditure of county ARPA funds. So we've advertised the public hearing and put the information out, Mr. Chairman. At this point, we're looking for input as we begin this kind of journey and process to look to spending that funds to making improvements in our community.
This time I'm going to open the public hearing part. Are there any questions or comments or anything from those in participation tonight? Anyone on the telephone or? Nope. In that case, I'm going to close the public hearing part and turn it over to the board. What are your comments or anything of the nature, board?
At this point, we don't have to have any formal action, Mr. Chairman. I think, I know the Finance Committee has been talking about the process, and I think, I can't speak for Ms. Patty, but I think, they'll take that into consideration moving forward.
Yes.
Any questions from the board? All right. Amendments to the county budget, Doug?
So the next public hearing C, as the board is aware, the county, as I just mentioned on the previous item, is slated to receive a total of $4.4 million in funding for the American Rescue Plan Act. We received the first disbursement this year. And prior to the expenditure of this, the funding, in accordance with Section 15.2-2507 of the Code of Virginia, the board must hold a public hearing prior to increase in the county budget. You have to have a public hearing anytime your increase in spending is more than 1% of the budget. 2.2 million exceeds that amount. It doesn't mean we're required to spend this money within the budget year. We actually have until December 31st of 2024 to commit the ARPA funds, and through December 31st of 2026 to complete expenditure of such funds. But this at least allows the appropriation and use of the funds if needed.
All right, this time I'm going to open the public hearing. Is there anyone online? No, there are two. Is anyone to speak to this? Anyone in participation tonight? If not, I close the public hearing. All right, board. Do we need a motion on that, or?
Yes, sir, we do.
Give me just a minute to get caught up in my paperwork.
We just need a amendment to our budget to add the 2.2
That's correct.
million to the.
$2,214,510.50.
I'll make a motion we do so.
Second.
There's been a motion made and probably second. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bobby? Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I don't
Yes,
know
sir.
what, you want to hop back up? I know we've got some other folks that are waiting. We don't have anybody signed up for any of the remaining items, but I think we had stopped, we're back
Yes,
on
let's back
item
up.
10.
That's correct.
Um,
All right, Ms. Johnson.
Actually, Dr. Johnson, let me jump in real quick. So item is actually, yeah, it's the
10 on
ARPA
the
funding,
ARPA
item
funding.
10. So on October 6, 2021, we received a letter from the school board requesting appropriation of $4,954,090.98 to the School CARES Act budget. In order for this transaction to take place, the board will have to authorize a public hearing to amend the FY22 county and school budgets by that amount and appropriate those funds. Again, the same code section we just referenced, 15.22507. To amend our budget, we would need to have a public hearing because it exceeds 1% of our $63.4 million budget. So with this request, I just need permission to authorize a public hearing on that request for next meeting.
I move that the board authorize a public hearing for December.
Second.
All right, it's been properly made and seconded twice, I think. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim? Bobby? Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou?
Yes.
All right. Now,
Now we got Dr. Johnson.
now, Ms. Johnson, go to it. Dr. Johnson. Get y'all up here.
Good evening, Chairman Emmerich, Vice Chair Dr. Pride, Mr. Stanley, and to all the board members. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to provide you just with a few updates about what's happening in Prince Edward County Public Schools. I want to first begin by publicly thanking all of the local businesses and community members that initiated and sponsored an Oktoberfest for our teachers and our staff members. They acknowledged all of the hard work that our teachers and staff members are putting forth. They acknowledged that this is a very difficult time for everyone. And so community members and business owners all contributed, and they had cupcakes and balloons and gifts, and we had live music, games on the lawn. It was a wonderful time to be had by our teachers. It gave them something other than another meeting. So I want to publicly thank everyone. And the list is so long that I am not going to call everyone out, and for fear of also missing someone. So I encourage you to go to our website and or Facebook page, because we do have listed all of the community businesses and community members that participated. So I want to start with that public thank you. I also like to talk a little bit about our partnerships. We are continuing our partnerships with Hampton-Sydney and Longwood. We are using tutors from both universities, and they're tutoring virtually, and it is working out quite well for some of our students. We are revitalizing our participation with the Call Me Mr. program. The Call Me Mr. program is a Longwood program that mentors young men, and it has been around for probably over a decade. Of course, throughout the pandemic and a little before that, we didn't have any active students participating, and so recently we met with them, and we are looking forward to our young men participating in the Call Me Mr. program. So I'm very excited about that. We also have another organization, PE Kids, that is assisting our children and our families in the community. We are working in partnership with them just to help families that may be in need of assistance. So I want to thank PE Kids for that as well. And before I move on to some other more specific things about the school itself, I also want to acknowledge that we sponsor, in partnership with Feed More, a food market every month. And the next food market is November 17th, and it is open to everyone. So anyone that is in need of food, particularly considering the Thanksgiving time is coming around, anyone that is in need, all you have to do, you don't have to get out of your car. Just drive up and open your trunk, and we put in the bags of food. And I want to thank all the volunteers, both from the PECPS community as well as the general community, in partnership with helping us, again, to give our services back to the community. I wanted to start with that. have 4 more points that I'd just like to briefly go over with you, just to let you know what is going on. So let's first talk about some academics. If you've been following us probably since June, maybe a little, actually that's not true, March, we have been working on our school calendar, and this year, for 21-22, we introduced 10 additional academic days into our calendar, because we recognize that our students, because of COVID and the situation, that our students would be behind as they are statewide and as they are nationally. So we introduced, with the assistance of our teachers, so this was actually teacher-driven, what is called intercession, and it was October 11th through the 15th. Intercession was designed to help those students with specific needs. It also, though, we also had part of the day for enrichment. So it's 10 extra days, 5 in the fall and 5 in the spring, where we invite children to come in that we have identified through their test scores, different assessments, different interventions that we have identified, and we ask them to come in for an extra 5 days of work. It was it received quite a bit of praise from parents and from teachers. Students seemed to enjoy it. It was very, very hands-on. It, of course, addressed all of the SOLs that were identified for each student. So sometimes children think they're just having fun time, but they're learning along the way, and that's what it was designed to do. So we had 461 students who actually participated in intercession. Now that number sounds great. We invited, however, 716 students based on scores. So one of the things that we are going to work on for the spring is increasing that number. I think as word gets out that it was a worthwhile time for students, and that it is making a difference for students, that we will get more in the spring. We will work on our publicity, of course, and get the word out. I'd also like to talk about SOLs very briefly, not all SOLs, but SOLs that were recently given. SOLs that were recently given were for 11th grade students as well as term 12th grade students. And that was given approximately 2 weeks ago. We will give it again for those students who came close to passing but did not pass, or if we have other term grads that need it, we will give that again in probably January or February, because that has to be hand scored, because it was the writing test very specifically. We are now, of course, we've moved past Halloween in October, so we are moving towards our Thanksgiving holiday in about 2.5 weeks or so, and then we will move into the winter break and resume, of course, in January. So those are the 2 big pieces academically that I wanted to share. We are working with the tutors from both Longwood, Hampton, Sydney are very, very helpful to us. Very, very helpful. We welcome other tutors, anyone who is in the community that wants to help tutor our students. We welcome that. You would simply have to call the school, and we would take you through whatever program that we have. We also have several homeschool teachers for those students that, for whatever reason, are not able to come into school. And so we do have several homeschool teachers as well, and I thank all of them as well. We do have 88 students who elected to just be totally virtual this year. And we are using Virtual Virginia for that. And that has been sanctioned, of course, by the state. So we do have 88 students who are doing straight virtual. I want to talk about attendance very briefly. And this is more of a public service announcement than anything else. It is important that students are in school. And so whereas our attendance rate right now for elementary school is 93%, our attendance, however, for high school is about 81%. And that's not acceptable. So I urge and encourage everyone, please make sure your children get on the bus and get to school, because there's a lot that we have to do in order to catch up. So that's my public service announcement for attendance. COVID, let's talk about COVID and the impact of COVID. We have had a total of 119 confirmed cases of COVID-19 since August We started about August 2nd. We have had 119 confirmed cases. 90 of those are students, and then the other staff members. We have been actually very, very fortunate in comparison to some of our neighboring counties. Mitigation strategies have worked for us, making sure that we are washing hands and keeping as much of a social distance as possible. Children are very, very good about wearing their masks. And what we realized for the little children, they've only been in school with masks. So with our pre-K and kindergarten, they don't know what it's like not to wear a mask. So they have been phenomenal with that. Our pre-K numbers have gone up. If you remember last year when I talked to some of you about pre-kindergarten, we had 91 slots available last year. And we were only able to secure about 40 participants in pre-K. Parents simply did not want to send their children to school. This year, however, we have about 85 students in pre-K who actually come every day. So that's very, very exciting for us because the early childhood skills are critical, are absolutely critical. There will be a vaccine clinic that we are partnering with the Virginia Department of Health. We are partnering on November 12th. So I want to promote that. And there are several clinics throughout the county. I recognize that, and I recognize this board's effort to make sure that everyone gets vaccinated. But the vaccine is available for children 5 through 11, and that is, of course, our target population. And November 12th, that will be held, I believe it is outside of Walmart. We hope to have a school bus there and activities. So I'm excited about that. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is what we're doing moving forward. And this is something that was actually on our radar, for lack of a better term, for several years pre-COVID, and it just seemed to not go anywhere, is JROTC. Our board seems very supportive of JROTC. Prince Edward County Public Schools at one time had a JROTC program, and it was a very strong program prior to me coming. And from what I'm told, it ended because we ended up with no JROTC teacher. And so we now want to revitalize those efforts, and we want to start with JROTC again. It is extremely important, and I want to say it again publicly so that anyone out there that may have any contacts, to please contact our central office. That number is 434-315-2150. If they are interested or have contacts around helping us to reestablish JROTC. The big question is, what branch do we want? It really does not matter. We simply want to bring it back because what JROTC does, it instills discipline, leadership, and our children right now need both of them, those. And it gives them a sense of pride, and that's more important than anything. And so our board has discussed it. We will put it on our board's agenda again in December, just to make sure that we have the opportunity for a thorough discussion. But right now, we've heard from parents, and we've heard from some of our board members, and we also had that information pre-COVID, that JROTC is something our community is interested in. So it is something that we would like to move forward with. So now those are some very quick updates. We're moving forward, and I thank all of the participants from the audience that continue to support us, continue to help us. I want to personally acknowledge Dr. Hood Frazier, who is our professor in residence. He not only works with our children with writing scholarships or high school essays, etc. Some of our children have won those scholarships to JMU, and so that is a huge accomplishment. So again, thank you very much, Dr. Hood Frazier, as well as providing professional development. We are very focused on professional development as well, because these are changing times.
Dr. Johnson, as one who uses a walker, it's good to see you without one.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Because I
sir.
think the last joint meeting we had, you had.
I did. I absolutely had a walker. I had knee replacement, just on a private note. I had complete knee replacement.
Any questions from the board?
I
Ms.
have
Pride?
questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, for that detailed update. I'm very excited about that ROTC program. Very excited about that.
So am I. Again, if you know anyone that can help us, because we need the direct connection, and we have people who are working on that, but anybody who knows someone, please let us know.
Dr. Johnson, you also mentioned 88 students were elected to be virtual.
Yes, ma'am.
What percentage high school, what percentage middle?
I did
Or do
not
you know-
bring-
you don't know that?
I do know, but I
Okay.
did not bring that information with me, and I apologize. I will give that information to Mr. Stanley, who can pass that along to you.
And of course, another concern would be the attendance rates. High school, 81%, and you know the work needs to be there. What programs or initiatives do you have in place to work with the attendance issue?
We hired this year very specifically because we knew that attendance would be an issue. We also knew that mental health would be an issue. So we hired a family support specialist. We put that in our budget last year. And that family, and it's being paid for through our CARES Act funding. And that family support specialist works with and monitors attendance division-wide, so at all 4 schools. And each school has a specific contact. So what we are doing right now is we have ramped up our home visits to all of those students who are not in school daily. And that is our primary strategy right now for dealing with where are our children. Because we have to, and throughout the pandemic, some children also moved. So I want to make that clear as well and did not tell us. So we are actively, weekly going out to see where our children are and why they are not in school. Some of them have jobs that they did not want to give up. And we are trying to get them back in school. We are also examining and about to discuss a GED program and maybe flexible hours for a GED program. We offer GED. We do offer that. But what we don't offer is GED on a flexible schedule, because throughout the pandemic, and you all heard me talk about this at some of our meetings, a lot of our children went to work. And some of our children did not want to abandon those jobs. But our children need to graduate, whether it's through GED or just general classrooms. They need to have something so that they can move on. So we are also talking about what can we do with our scheduling to address that. So those are the 2 primary pieces. Of course, we have brought back all of our sports. That has encouraged a lot of our children to come back to school. And that, pretty much that's what we do.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Any other questions?
It's a go ahead. The ones that are virtual versus the ones that are not attending, is those numbers figured into 81%?
Those numbers are figured into our general population, our overall population this year. But they are not considered those who are absent, because they, of course, they also have Virtual Virginia. Those teachers are not paid by Prince Edward County Public Schools. They are paid, you can be in a class if you're in Virtual Virginia with students from Northern Virginia, Southwest Virginia, anywhere. So those teachers come through Virtual Virginia and are paid through Virtual Virginia, but they remain on our roll. So they help for our ADM. So that's how they're figured in, but they do not negatively impact us at all. In fact, they very positively impact us. Now, the Virtual Virginia schedule is very different from ours. So if you were to look at the Virtual Virginia calendar, their calendar does not match the Prince Edward County Public Schools calendar. The holidays don't match, none of it matches. Our sole responsibility to the children who are learning virtually, one, we do have an on-campus mentor for each student, so that we do monitor their grades, we do monitor how often they log on. We do provide them with any equipment that they may need to be successful. So they have laptops or I can't think of the name, Chromebooks. They do have all of those things, and that is provided by Prince Edward County Public Schools, but they do not negatively impact us at all. Just as another public plug, Virtual Virginia registration, if parents are interested in continuing with Virtual Virginia, or if they are not interested, either way, registration is open now, and you can visit our website if you would be interested in your child going completely virtual in the spring.
Thank you. You mentioned GED program. Is that available for adults?
Not at this time. Currently, it is for our students.
Mm-hmm.
That's a discussion, though, I think we need to have, and that's a discussion that I think we need to work with the county and other agencies with, because just overall, we want to be able to provide services to our total community. But at this point in time, no, sir.
I was thinking about the jail, because you got Miss McClure, I think.
Yes, Ms. McClure
Yeah.
does work with us, yes.
Yeah, and she does IEPs, one from,
Yes.
yeah. But
Yes.
it would be wonderful if we could make it all inclusive for those adults that want to achieve their GED.
Perhaps we need to have a conversation about what that looks like.
Yeah, that'll be good. We could do that.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you, ma'am.
Again, thank you for allowing me to share.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Virginia State Parks.
Well, good evening, Chairman, members of the board,
Good evening.
administration, staff, and the community. My name is Dan Jordan. I'm park manager at High Ridge Trail State Park. Dave Gunnels is the manager of Sailor's Creek and Stanton River combined. They gave him 2 parks. And Kevin Cobian with Twin Lakes is here with me. And so you might be wondering why there's so much earth tones up front. Well, Prince Edward County is a unique county, as it's the only county in the state that has 3 state parks.
Yeah.
So Sarah will help resonate that point. But we're very fortunate, not only in Prince Edward County to have 3 state parks, but we also, we have 5 state parks within 30 minutes of downtown Farmville. And then outside of that 5, there's 6 state parks within an hour of Farmville. So you have 11 state parks, and much of the state does not have that joy. And so, and we're, as state employees, we're glad that state parks are here as economic engines to help draw in people. And we believe that we are good for the county and the towns and municipalities as they're good for us. We share users. And so tonight, we're here to give an update on our parks and then answer any questions that you may have. And then even after this evening, anything that you have, we're very accessible, so let us know. So I'll start with High Bridge, and we'll go in alphabetical order. How about that? Sounds fantastic. So I'll give you our attendance numbers. So right now, we're sitting at 142,484 visitors to High Bridge this year. It is very hard to grab every single user on the trail, and so, but we're consistent in where we check. And so right now, we're at a 3.5% increase, and our revenue right now for the fiscal year, which started in July, is just around 40,000, which is a 5% increase from last year. So we're seeing a lot more people. With the pandemic, we ended up, our parks were a haven for people to come to. And so our revenues and our attendance really jumped up. But as the world has opened back up, people are returning to life. But the hope is that we have new users that discover parks for the first time, and then we have people that rediscover parks. And we love grabbing kids and their attention, because they usually grab their parents and drag them into programs and visiting other parks. And so, and we now have a Trail Quest program that you can go and visit all the parks, which people are starting to do. So High Bridge is seeing an increase. With that, we've hired several people. As you all know, it's been trouble getting people. And so we're starting people at $13 an hour right now. We have 2 new maintenance hires that started in the last couple weeks. And with that, we're moving out of the mowing season, and we're moving into our winter maintenance. So if you've noticed, we've redecked High Bridge this year, and then we've redecked part of Mill Street. We started the other side of Mill Street in town this week, and we'll be finishing that up by Thursday. And then we should be getting money to redeck River Road which is 350 feet. There will be a little bit of a disruption, but we will let people know well in advance. The other thing is, if you've all been on the trail, you've noticed that the trees are engulfing the trail, and we spend a lot of time hand cutting everything, and unfortunately, it's like dipping the ocean out with a teaspoon. It's just so much we can do, and so we looked at a bunch of different options, and the best option, money-wise and effective, is we purchased a boom mower, and so it only took a year to get here, but we got it yesterday and went to work today. So right now, we are trimming the entirety of the 31 miles on both ends, and that will be opened up for users. The other big thing is, we've talked about, is our visitor center at Camp Paradise in Prince Edward. We are hoping to get more funding and hoping that lumber prices have come down to a point that we can rebid that. We went to bid it, and with lumber being around 200% up, it increased the project to a point that we could not do it this time. So, but the hope is that within the next year we'll be breaking ground on a visitor center in Prince Edward County at Camp Paradise on the east side of High Ridge. And then the other thing is with Pamplin, on the west end of the trail, we have purchased 1 mile and 30 acres of Mississippi now. We are working with the town of Pamplin. They had some savings through Appomattox County, and so there's a 1 acre piece of property that they've started clearing. They're going to improve that and donate it to the park, and that will be the entrance to the western terminus of High Ridge Trail. On the other end, we're seeking funding through RTP grants through DCR to actually develop that last mile. And the majority of the mile is in Prince Edward. It's just going to be the parking lot that we have in Appomattox County. But that's going to extend us to 32 miles. So, and then the last thing is with us opening back up, we're getting back into events. So we finished everything for the most part, but we do have a 50K and 100K race in December. So if anyone's feeling froggy and wants to run 64 miles, we can do that. That's the entire trail twice. And so it's actually sold out. So it's close to 300 people are coming out. And so those are outside people bringing dollars into Prince Edward and into the town. And then the last thing is first day hike on January 1st. And that's going to be at all state parks, free parking. And then we'll be back in person this year. Last year was Saltback. So that is High Ridge in a nutshell. Any questions specifically for High Ridge? All right. So, Dave, you want to come on? So, Dave Gunnels is the new park manager to Sailors Creek. However, he's not a new manager because he's been at Stanton River, so they've combined those parks.
Well, hello. So like Gail said, I am the new park manager for Sailors Creek. They combined the operations for Stanton River Battlefield State Park and Sailors Creek Battlefield State Park, the only two in the system. So I just started that a couple months ago. So glad to be here, glad to be taking on the new responsibility, hoping that we can expand the offerings there at the park and increase the use and value to the county. Our attendance is up about 10%, which is a little bit more than the analysts.
It happens. I'm not surprised.
I won't give you the absolute number, though. It's not quite as high as High Ridge Trail. Nevertheless, we do have a few things going on at the park. Like I said, a couple new things we're working on. Dr. Brian Bates from Longwood is going to be helping us out. Hopefully, spring 2022, trying to find some evidence of buildings at the Hillsman House, the historic structure there at Sailors Creek, that is no longer visible. We're looking for foundations that would have been there previously and try to identify where those stood and what those may have been, and then potentially in the future reconstructing some of those buildings based on the evidence that the students from Longwood were able to find. That's one of our big things. The other thing is the staff at the park have been working to research the history of the park beyond just the battle. One of the things that they think they found, but they're not ready to say 100%, is that Robert Moten may have been born there at the Hillsman House in the park. He was one of the early leaders of the African American community, ran the Tuskegee Institute after Booker T. Washington. And so we're hopeful that we can continue to do the research on that and and nail that down 100%, and then use that as a vehicle to talk about his life and African-American history more generally at the park. So those are a couple big things that we're working on right now, in addition to just expanding the program that we do regularly. And as David said, we try to be open and available, so anybody that has questions or wants information, wants to take a look at the park, welcome to come on out, give us a call, email, whatever would work, and we'd be happy to set that up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, members of the board.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us tonight. My name is Kevin Fabian, for those who don't know me, the park manager at Twin Lake State Park, right down the road in Green Bay, Virginia. We have a number of different accommodations there, overnight, day use facilities, our concession stand, cabins, campground, and 2 lakes. So we do have a lot to offer the community here. To talk numbers a little bit, for our last full fiscal year was FY21, ran from July 1st to June 30th. We were up from the year before, from $360,000 to $586,000. Which is great to see. A lot of that was, we believe, due to the conditions Dana talked about with COVID-19, people using parks as a haven. We are down about 20% from where we were last fiscal year this year, from $215,000 to $175,000. Some of that we think is due to changes we made during COVID to our rental policies. So previously, you would have to normally rent for a 7-day period during the summer, during our busy season, and we suspended that and reduced it to 2 days. And being back up to 7 days, I think that has impacted our revenue a little bit. Our biggest revenue generation is our cabins, about half of that revenue. Camping is about a quarter of our total revenue, and then our merchandise is about 10%. And the others are mixed between things like parking and our dining hall rentals and things like that. We do have some capital improvement projects coming up. We are doing work to upgrade our well houses on site. So we have 2 wells that provide water to the entire park. Those are completely plumbed with galvanized plumbing that's starting to fail and leak and corrode. So we're taking those offline in a staggered manner. So the Goodwin Lakeside that services our day use area and campgrounds going offline early December. That does go in line with our normal campground closure, so the public will be minimally affected for that. But starting in January 7th, I believe, the well house on the Prince Edward side will be closed down. And so we were able to catch it early enough where we only had to cancel a few cabin reservations, but from just January 7th through March 24th, our cabins will be offline and not available for rental. So that'll hurt us in the revenue a little bit, but hopefully it'll take some headaches away down the line. That date is very important because it butts right up against one of our own marathons we're having in the park, the Dogwood Ultra Runs. So that's March 25th. It's a 12, 24, and 36-hour ultra marathon. 36-hour offering is new. They'll run a 3.4-mile loop as many times as they like during that period. And they'll also have a 10-mile option available in relay form. So running events, they're very popular. This event sold out the last 2 years, I believe. And it brings some people to the park that definitely don't come out very often. Back to capital improvement projects, the permits are moving again for our earthen dam projects. So Prince Edward Lake Dam and Goodwin Lake Dam both sustained damage during Hurricane Michael. A lot of this was before my time at the park, but my understanding is the funding was allocated, but the permitting process takes a long time to make those repairs. So hopefully that can occur soon. The work is still ongoing to restore the integrity to those dams. We've had a lot of support recently from Longwood University. In particular, their Honors College has brought a number of groups out to support the park with volunteer work. These include planting native plants in our day use area to control erosion and increase the aesthetics of the park, placing riprap to control erosion, painting blazes to make our trails more easy to follow, picking up trash, and then doing various repairs in the park. So we really appreciate the support of Longwood University to the park. For those fishermen in the crowd, DWR did stock about 500 10 to 12-inch catfish in our 2 lakes this morning, actually. Since their channel catfish have a little bit of trouble reproducing on their own in Virginia sometimes, so they have a very robust stocking program across the state. We're fortunate to be able to have that in the park. So for those who haven't tried catfishing in Twin Lakes, it's pretty good. And then an exciting event this Friday. We are going to have the opportunity to honor Reverend Dr. John Henry Brown, who's a 96-year-old member of the original 1390th All-Black CCC company that built Twin Lakes State Park. One of the reasons he's still with us is he actually had to lie about his age to join the CCC when he was 16 years old. But he heard at the post office that if he would get 3 meals a day and get paid, he could send it back to his family to help support them. So his daughter approached us recently about her father's accomplishments, and we took the opportunity to make improvements to one of our shelters on site that was, we believe, built by the CCC. It's a live cedar log structure with concrete and slate floor. So we've made a lot of improvements to that structure. We've added some interpretive signage that tells Mr. Brown's story, as well as the 1390th company there at the shelter. And we'll be honoring him on Friday for his accomplishments in life and specifically the work he did at Twin Lakes State Park. So we're honored to be able to do that. And those are the main things we've got going on at Twin Lakes State Park. I'll go ahead and open to any questions you might have.
What time is the event?
It will be at 1 p.m. We have, it's not totally open to the public just due to constraints on the location of the event, but if anyone would like to attend, I can give you my card and we'd be happy to have you out. So.
I got 2 little things. I'm glad to hear you got the boom axe. I've noticed the last couple of years it's kind of disappearing down through there.
A little bit.
I had one gentleman call me with a little concern, I guess, because of the fall leaf changes, the number of people going to High Bridge on the north end, so there was a lot of people parking on the side of the road, and making him enlarge a parking lot or something possibly.
Yeah, so with River Road, we've made Camp Paradise our main access point, and we've advertised that. Unfortunately, River Road is a pretty established parking area still. We had a fantastic parking attendant who unfortunately passed away, and so we've been unable to find somebody. So with what we're doing is trying to increase patrols to those areas, especially because of the foliage. And state parks, we ended up doing a foliage report online so people could look and determine where they want to go each weekend to see the best leaves. And so that has increased attendance, which is great, but stuff like that has happened. But we're working to keep that area safe because that road is dangerous coming up. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Scott? Been in the hot seat now, you've had time.
So on low volume commercial entrances, the answer is yes, it can be gravel if it's less than 10% truck traffic. And it is not on a primary route. And then obviously it has to meet stopping site distance requirements, as long as intersection site distance is a little bit longer. That's the preferred. So, but the minimum is the stopping site distance. So if somebody has to pull out, they have to come to a complete stop. So, but the answer is actually yes. I was thinking about it as I was sitting there. There's a lot more than just residential. That could be gravel, like logging entrances, any type of temporary construction. So my mind doesn't think quite as quick as I wish it would. So got a decent update this month. I've been working with Doug, a constituent of, I think, Mrs. Pride, reached out in the past about Briary Hills Drive. And I think he reached back out to Doug, and we were able to collaborate a little bit, and I sent him what I had as far as, what had happened in the past with the right-of-way, or, looking at the plans I have on hand, it's kind of delineated on there, but it's not recorded, with its own acreage like right-of-way typically is. It's written on the plan as right-of-way reserved, but the property lines of those lots come out to the middle of the road, so that's not officially right-of-way. And I think Doug is communicating back to Mr. Hobbs about that. So, hopefully we're in a good place now as far as where it stands. And then also working with Doug, last Friday we spent the afternoon together and we kind of toured the county, so to speak. We looked at 3 rural rustic projects, Route 740 Copper Hill, Route 751 Hidden Lake, and 628 Mill Creek. Those are the 3 that we've worked on this year. We've got the first 2 that I mentioned completed, Copper Hill and Hidden Lake. We've got all the preliminary work on Mill Creek done. It's all the way up the base stone's place, but the temperature caught us, and we didn't get to put the surface treatment down, so that'll have to sit over the winter. We'll get it in the spring.
Scott, I was gonna ask you about, Mill Creek. When will you start working on that road again?
As soon as the temperature warms up in the spring.
Okay.
When you work with surface treatment, you have to have warm temperatures to put the liquid asphalt down, so you just won't get a very good product if you try to cheat when the temperature does what it's doing to us right now. And then we looked at the 2 smart scale projects, the Worsham Turn Lane project that was recently completed, and the Fish and Pig that's actually under construction. We call it the Fish and Pig roundabout down there at 133 and 15. And then we also went out 604 and took a look at the safety widening project that we did out there. But it was a good afternoon. Well, while we were on the Worsham Turn Lane project, we met with Mr. Irving. He's a citizen that lives on the northwest quadrant. He had a lot of different things he showed us while we were out there. And we looked at the project plans with him, some of the right-of-way agreements that I had on hand. And I think we, at least, discussed a lot of his issues with him, or his concerns with us. But while 2 things I'm able to do is drainage issues that we found that he was able to bring to our attention. One was at his driveway where some rain had filled the end of the pipe up, and across the street from his house is like an old schoolhouse or church, and there's a clogged culverted pipe in there. It's been that way for a long time. And when you drive past, it's hard to notice, but when he showed it to us, it's obvious that we needed to do some ditching work there to get that cleaned out. So I thought it was a productive visit. But as far as our state forces, this month, other than rural rustic work that we wrapped up, we've just been mowing. I think primarily 460 and 360. We're gonna finish up 360 the first of next week. And our goal for finishing 460 is by the end of the month. With all the holiday time in November, and the fact that we're doing a full cutback on the right-of-way, it's gonna be, sort of a heavy lift to say that we'll get it done before Thanksgiving, but I think by the end of the month, we'll have that knocked out. And then a snow update. We did a dry run. We tested all of our equipment, made sure it's all in working order. That went really well. We get those minor issues of the stuff that sat all summer long, make sure it's ready to go, taken care of. And then we also have snow plans, where we have like a map of the county and we decide which trucks are gonna do which routes. And we've been going over those to make sure they're up to date with when people change positions and, somebody retires or leaves VDOT. We have to make sure that we have a new person trained and ready to take that area that they used to push snow in or put chemicals down. So we're in a good place as far as snow. And then last thing I wanted to mention is about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, I attended a meeting that the Virginia State Police put together. state police, VDOT was there, and I took the assistant traffic engineer from the Lynchburg district. Buckingham County, had a representative present that deals with emergency management coordination. And then 3 members of the Amish community came, but the subject of the meeting was, safety with animal-drawn vehicles. And the state police played, I'd say, the biggest role in putting it on and, you know, what content it covered. But the major that attended had a lot of interest in, like, what requirements animal-drawn vehicles had, what equipment the typical buggy has. And it was very informative for me because they have hydraulic brakes and a lot of stuff that I didn't know they had. They run on a D-Wall battery. It's all LED lights. They said it's a 4 to 6 hour life on the battery for, you know, depending on the size of the D-Wall battery, you know, they can have those lights on for 4 to 6 hours. But so, you know, and I think earlier in the major's career with Virginia State Police, he was over vehicle inspection, so it's pretty neat to see where his mind was at with that. But it was a long, like I would say it was a long meeting. We were there for an hour or so talking about safety, and everybody that was at the meeting had some kind of story to tell about an accident that had occurred in the past, and a lot of them don't really make sense. Like when you think about them, they've been in straightaways in broad daylight. There's no rhyme or reason to them or a pattern. You know, like when we hear about one, we like to say, "Oh, it's dark out. They must not be able to see them." And they've got almost better lights or more lights than a car has on it. They are going much slower than a vehicle, so maybe drivers don't anticipate how quickly they're approaching them. They think at first they think it might be a car or something. The Amish community that lives in this area, which covers from Cartersville over to Mount Rush, down to Prospect, and then back to Farmville, it's kind of that boxed-in area. That has 65 families in it, and we've started meeting with them about 2 years ago, and that community agreed to put an amber strobe light on their buggies. And I was out last night coming back from Buckingham, and I met 2 of them coming down the road, and that strobe light is easy to notice. But, so that was something that they did on their own. It's not required by law or anything, but that community has agreed to do that. But the Amish community said that they thought that the VDOT signs were great, and about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we made an effort to sign the perimeter of the counties on all the primary routes, so that somebody coming into the county from, you know, the outside is aware. And it says countywide. It's got the symbol of a horse and buggy, and at the bottom it says share the road. So kind of our mindset when we placed that signage was like the people that live here are kind of used to seeing them, but somebody coming in from the outside might not be aware. So, but it was kind of agreed from all parties that driver education could maybe play the biggest dividends as far as reducing the number of crashes with animal-drawn vehicles. So, I look for the state police to maybe have more meetings or carry the torch a little farther, maybe reach out to other parties like DMV and schools, Department of Education, try to get that part of it moving forward a little bit. So I thought it was at least worth telling you guys about it while I was here. And at this time, I'm opening it up to the board to see if you guys have any comments or concerns for me.
So I have a concern. Coming off Carter Road, making a right on Douglas Church Road, there is a drainage problem right at that intersection. Coming off Carter, making water just stands there all the time.
Okay.
And when it rains heavily, it's a big problem.
Okay.
So take a look at that, please.
Scott, in the Prospect area, the people at Hidden Lake are pleasantly thankful for what you're doing up there. The only concern is 2 people had called and said, did you plan to come back and work some from the, I guess from the driveway side up? They said that the seal coating of the treatment is higher than what their driveway is. And I told them that I would bring that up.
Okay, yeah,
And-
I'll look at that. I did that ride through with Doug. I didn't notice, but we didn't really stop. We kind of did a drive through. So,
Anyone else?
Yes, Scott, you on Epps Lane off Mills Creek? You know what I'm talking about?
Epps Lane on Mill Creek.
Off Mills, as soon as you turn off 360,
Okay, yeah.
that road got a lot of potholes in it, and the ditch line need to be pulled.
Okay.
I don't know if you still got your equipment out there or not, but if you could do that, probably need regrading.
Okay.
And Corner Road, I forgot, what did you say, tell me about Corner Road off of Twin Bridges?
Is that the road with the S curve?
Yeah, all the way at the end though, we ain't talking about the S curve though, but that's the same road.
Oh, okay. But
I think you ran the traffic studies.
oh, yeah, there's two sections of that on the, happen to have that with me. What's that route number on it?
I think it's 723, 6. I'm not sure. It's Twin Bridges,
Okay.
right off 360 in Green Bay.
I've got a RRF's road, is that it?
That's off, that's the one I'm talking about.
Okay, the traffic count on that one is 60 vehicles.
Okay, but that's the one we need to, it got potholes, need to regrade, pull the ditch line off.
Okay.
The other one, Corner Road, is across the road on off Twin Bridges in Green Bay, right in the town.
Yeah, oh, right in the town.
You know, right in the little section of Green Bay, you go across the Twin Bridges, the double bridges. I can't think of the road number, 672, something like that.
I wish I had them all memorized by now, I'm not there yet.
It's the same one with the S curve, same road.
Yeah.
It's off that. That's right. Not away. You know what I'm talking about, Trey? That's right. Corner Road off Twin Bridges. Yeah, that's the one that you did the traffic study.
Yeah, we submitted the traffic
Study.
study for that.
Did you ever get any results or response?
Well, I should have put this in my email, Sarah. The results typically take like 4 months to get
Oh,
back.
okay.
There's 10 counties and there's only about, a half dozen people in traffic engineering that do them.
Okay.
So it's, when it comes back, I'll let you know, but it's, a wait time to get them back.
But I also talked about Levi. Trey took Levi and the S curve on.
Yeah, there was 2 that submitted.
That's right.
Patty asked us if we could help her with the specifics of the actual kind of span of roadway. So Trey's gonna check those mileages from the intersections.
Okay.
To be able to give Patty from point so many miles from the intersection so that when you all submit it to traffic engineering, there's more specificity.
Yeah, I'm getting better as I go. That's a product of screwing up a few times. If you submit it wrong, it just makes it take longer to get back with you.
That's fine.
Yeah, we're gonna ask if we can help her with just to give her the road range.
Yeah.
I just need to get back with the constituents.
Okay.
As soon as you let me know something.
Sounds, yeah, I think we actually put the contact phone numbers in there so that it's an automatic trigger to call you when it's done.
Okay.
Bobby or Lou?
I got
Go ahead.
one little tidbit. I know you're tired of hearing a 307.
Yes, but that's another location we've been looked at while we were out there.
The last 2 weeks, I come in west, one vehicle on the right side of me went by me, just pulled it over. He was from North Carolina, never realized it. I'm not sure you ought to put that portable sign back out there again, telling people to move over. And I talked to Sheriff Epps the other day. Evidently, they had an elderly gentleman that missed it completely, went over top of the concrete, over the ditch, up into the man's field, and came out in the driveway, tore the car all pieces.
Wow.
Chairman, I have a text message from the sheriff who had hoped to be here tonight, but unfortunately wasn't able to. And he asked me if I would please tell VDOT we are still having accidents in 307, the turn lane. People are not seeing the turn lane and paying attention to the arrows. We need flashing lights and a reduced speed limit.
Good.
So the sheriff's office can enforce it. The speed is what's causing the accidents and the confusion. So guess it's the turning onto 307.
They don't realize it till they're right on top of
Realize
it.
that how sharp that
Yep.
curve is, that you've got to slow down.
I think it's a,
to Get onto 307.
Sarah, it's a 45 yellow sign, which is recommended, but it's not the speed limit. I think that's what the sheriff's talking about, if actually make the speed limit lower, at that intersection.
And some flashing lights or something to, even the pavement markings are, I'm gonna say, pretty close in. If you go through Bedford and other places where, they can start a mile out, and these are pretty close in.
Okay.
You're hitting that intersection.
Yeah, well, since we've implemented that last round of, I guess, upgrades, I'll call them, now that we're still having issues, I'll
If
put it
you
back.
give us the data of the upgrades, we'll pull the CAD reports for how many accidents have occurred since then.
Okay.
So you can go back to traffic engineering with numbers.
Yeah,
That'll help your position.
it sounds like another series of rumble strips further back by that half-mile sign.
Yep.
Get their attention when they see the sign. I mean, it's hard to believe that people are hitting rumble strips and still not slowing down or moving.
It happens.
But yeah, I mean, I wanna work through the problem and
Yeah.
get it to the point where there won't be issues anymore.
Well, we're happy to pull those,
Yes, I'll get you the data.
CAD reports just to give you an idea of what's going on and from which direction.
Yeah,
And I'm sure the sheriff would also be happy to participate.
yeah, okay.
Bobby, anything?
Oh, just let's see Copperfield Road, Third
Oh.
Street, the neighbors up there.
It turned out really well. When we had Doug went, I was really pleased with the finished product.
Yep.
Thank you. I'll pass the praise along to the guys.
There you go.
Anything else for Doug? Or for Scott? Look at Doug and talk to Scott.
Pass them on to Doug.
That's right. Thank you, Scott.
All right, thank you. You guys have a good night.
You too,
too.
thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I was gonna turn it back over to you, Doug, for
Item
proposed
D.
ordinance, correct?
I think, Sarah, you covering the bonus discussion, next public hearing?
I believe all the board members have I'm gonna say a red line copy. In the sheriff's absence, again, he apologizes for his inability. He had to be elsewhere in the county tonight. But as the board is aware, the General Assembly approved and is funding a one-time $3,000 bonus, state-supported bonus for sworn officers. The board has supported this effort, and in addition, the sheriff had also asked for funding for the additional officers and employees in his office. And then there was consideration for the fact that all Prince Edward County local government employees have been frontline during the entirety of the pandemic. In that the Prince Edward County government operations never closed down. People were never working from home, and so the continuity of government and the maintenance of services for our citizens continued throughout. So with that in mind, the board and the finance committee had authorized the advertising of a public hearing for the board to consider for a one-time bonus for full-time and part-time employees and the officers of the county. And that has been advertised, Mr. Chairman, and now is the time for that public hearing.
At this time, we're gonna open the public hearing. Is there anyone online or to speak to, anyone from out here in our audience who would like to speak to, for or against? No one online either? Seeing none, I close that part. Turn it over to the board. I think that Bobby and Patty and myself sat through this at the finance committee and looked at several different things and how to work this and how not to, and the sheriff was also there and gave us some input on their side. Since part of this is comp board funded and part of it is not, is the reason why it was a bigger issue. And for those that are in the public, don't know whether you realize that we are only allotted so many comp board positions to begin with. So everyone that works for the police department, or the sheriff's department, I guess I should say, is not comp board funding. And there's no way to really tell who is and who isn't, because it's not a Lou Gillum is comp board funded and Bobby Jones is not. It's just X number of them that are. So that's where our quandary came, and the reason why we decided to go the way we are. But as far as coming out of our committee, that was our recommendation, but it's up to the board. If there are any questions, Doug, myself, Bobby, Sarah, Patty will be glad to speak to anything that we know. If there are none, I guess
What's the
just,
total disbursement?
I'll turn it over to
If you
Doug.
look on page 130.
130?
Yes, sir, in your board pack. There are multiple sources of funding.
Yeah.
For so it's bonus, hazardous duty, and premium pay. The definition of each is dependent upon the funding source, and the eligibility of the employee.
That answer your question, Jerry, or?
Yeah, I got
see
it.
see
Yeah,
there?
I see it. 473, 736, 25. That's total. Breakdown, 5 sources. I move that we approve it.
All right, then Jerry has made a motion to approve it. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Jim seconds. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bobby?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou?
Yes.
All right. If I'm not mistaken, that covers all of our public hearings. Is that correct?
Yes,
Let me get my.
If
All right.
If it's
Doug?
okay with you, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to flip-flop 15 and 16 because we have a lot of folks here that have come tonight
Absolutely.
to hear the discussion on bullet 16, which starts on page 161. And we also have online Mr. Stephen Halsey from Mosley Architects. Prince Edward County Elementary School was constructed in several phases as the needs of the community grew. There are 7 sections of the elementary school, the first of which was constructed in school year 1969-70. The building has been in continuous use since its construction and shows significant structural wear in spite of consistent maintenance efforts. Thus, based on the age, condition, and functional inefficiencies of the building, the school system is requesting a new elementary school building or at a minimum a significant renovation to the facility. The elementary school is a center for learning and houses over 800 students and 60 staff members and volunteers. It is the location for parent night, celebrations, dances, professional development, parent community resource centers, and many other activities which bring several communities together. The buildings, though well maintained, continue to demonstrate wear for not only use but weather. Ice, rain, windstorms, aging water pipes have plagued the building for several years. Although roof areas have been patched and repaired, the roofing structures continue to deteriorate, causing leaks, damaged tiles, and warped floor and walls throughout the buildings. Without significant renovations and or construction of a replacement building, the elementary school will not meet the public health and safety needs of our children and staff. This project was included in the adopted FY 22-24 capital improvement plan as the number 2 project. As discussed at our joint meeting with the school board on September 29th, the county has requested that Delegate Edmonds carry a bill in the upcoming 2022 General Assembly session to add Prince Edward County to the list of qualified counties that are allowed to collect up to 1% in additional sales tax revenue for the construction or renovation of schools within the locality. Delegate Edmonds' office has confirmed that they will be filing the bill. The bill, if approved by the General Assembly, will allow the county to call for a referendum on the additional 1% sales tax on the November 2022 ballot. If approved by the voters, the board would then pass an ordinance to put the tax in place. We would build the process of the design and construction of the project and borrowing of funds around the approval of the tax increase and availability of funds. On page 162, I put together kind of a draft scenario of steps, with step one being to advertise an RFP for architectural services for renovation to the elementary school. That would happen over the winter. And the responsible party would be Prince Edward County Public Schools. Step two would be move forward with design of repairs to the existing roof system. As we talked about at our joint meeting, we need to put some temporary repairs in place to protect the envelope of the building and the occupants thereof. I think a possible use is some leftover FY21 funds. The school board has made that request already to the Board of Supervisors. We have held that pending approval of the FY21 audit, so that's a possible source of funds there. The anticipation would be that would be completed over spring and summer of next year. Step three would be the board consider return, again, of the FY21 surplus to fund the temporary repairs and the start of project design. Again, that would be as soon as the audit's completed, hopefully in the January timeframe. Step four would be to award design contract for renovations to the elementary school in the spring or summer of next year. 5 would be to determine the method of financing and source of funds. That would be summer and fall. I've already had preliminary conversations with both Davenport, who's our financial advisor, and bond counsel about coming up with a plan of finance. Step 6 would be to bid the renovation of the project. That will be during the winter of 22-23. That also will time in with hopefully the referendum that we will be able to hold next fall. Step 7 would be to sell bonds for the project probably in the spring of 23, whether that be through VPSA or the Virginia Resource Authority. Step 8 would be to award a bid for the renovation spring of 23 and start that summer. They're really looking, it would probably be till the fall of 24 before the project would be completed. So it obviously is a multi-year, multifaceted, multi-step process, but the first step hopefully will start tonight. Since I've been in the community for the last year, this project has been the one that I definitely have heard the most about. I have had the opportunity not only to tour the school with the schools and school board members, but I've been on the roof with various architects looking at the issues firsthand. We've got to do something about the project. And as we talked about that joint work session, it's really been, kind of the question has been to what extent. And we're really, at that meeting, we talked about 4 different options. Option 1 was simply to, as outlined by Mosley, was to look at just replacing the roof. But I think everybody understands that there's significant damage to the inside that's not going to be enough. Option 2 was kind of renovation light, which is basically leave the walls in place and renovate the space you've got. Option 3 was a heavier renovation that kind of blended changing and modifying the spaces and coming up with more conducive to a learning environment in the 21st century. I guess that's an easy way to put it. And option 4 was to construct a replacement school. I think one of the things that is certainly driving this is the escalation of construction cost and how we as a community, we as a county are going to pay for the improvements. I know it was talked about a little bit earlier. We were talking about the 1% sales tax. And there's a page 167 is an outline from Davenport on sales tax. Currently, you're looking at about $3.8 million that would be generated from a 1% local sales tax option for school capital improvements. To put that in perspective, each penny of real estate generates about $185,000. So if we look at a borrowing of $30 million to cover a heavy renovation project. The debt service for 30 million is about, this is using 4% interest rate. Right now, you could probably get it close to 2, and that'd be my hope. The sooner, we don't know in a year, but hopefully it's less than 4. But a $2,225,000 debt service, it would take 12 cents, I think, if you do the math. Yep, a little over 12 pennies to be able to cover that if we were doing it on the backs of real estate property owners. To generate 3.8 million, that's a 20.5 cent tax increase. The 1% sales tax has an opportunity to be transformative for the school system here. Not only could we fund the heavy renovation of the elementary school as proposed, but as you can see there, we'll also generate other revenues that we know we're going to have some work to do eventually in the middle school and the high school. I've been in both those buildings, and the school system staff does a great job maintaining, but stuff's just wearing out. In the next 5, 10, 15 years, we'll have some funding to be able to do that. The 1% sales tax has to be used for school capital improvements, whether cash or debt service. So it really, we were talking, Mr. Wilt was talking earlier about options and opportunities. I don't see this board or any board raising taxes 20 cents to fund capital improvements. So this certainly would be a game changer for us. The school board met, and it was their recommendation to pursue option 3. I know it's less than the initial discussion about a new school, but I think they've come to meet the expectations that the board has talked about. Again, I've got Mr. Halsey from Mosley online to answer any questions as far as variations in, say, option 2 and option 3 and what those could or couldn't mean for the project. But I think we've done a good job of framing it, and I think there's a lot of work ahead, but I think we've done as good a job as we can to kind of nail down the issues and the options and how to pay for it. And step 1 is really getting started tonight. The other thing that's parallel in tracking is Delegate Edmonds and carrying that bill for us to the General Assembly, and hopefully we can get that through, which will ultimately allow the citizens of Prince Edward County to make the decision on how we pay for this project. But I really want to set this up and allow for the board and the school board to know the eventual outcome of that before we go to bid and before you have to accept a bid and commit the taxpayers of this community to pay for it. And at least we would know at that point where we stand with the sales tax, and if that option is met their approval at the polls. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll shut up, and again, I'll be happy to answer any questions, and I appreciate Dr. Johnson being here and the school board chair as well, and we've got Mr. Halsey online as well.
All right, board. What are your questions or comments?
Do we have any idea at all yet what we're going to get from the state? I mean, I was just talking to Justin, but both sides of the gubernatorial race seemed to be debating as to who was going to come up with the most money for education.
So I think typically when you hear the General Assembly talk about education and spending and funding, excuse me, they're not talking about capital. They're talking about operating costs. So you'll hear a lot of chatter this year about funding more or less and what they're going to be able to fund. Nobody's offering to come write a check to build a school in Prince Edward. Now, there could be some federal ARPA funds that flow through for construction, and certainly we will be on the lookout for any dollars. There is the potential you could use some of those ARPA because we would be replacing the HVAC system. And I've talked to Mosley about, if necessary, we could capture part of the renovation, being the HVAC improvements, and be able to pay for it. I think things will get interesting next year if the sales tax concept moves forward. It'll be a little bit easier for us. If it doesn't, then we'll have to look at kind of a hybrid probably between a 2 and 3 and figure out how to pay for everything. Because again, this is 12 cents if we were trying to pay for it alone on the backs of the real estate tax. It's a big number to cover. And I think that's why we're looking at the sales tax as an option.
Ms. Johnson?
Waiting for the interruption, I just wanted to share that we did share with our board that we plan to apply for a grant for when we were talking about renovations for HVAC. And the idea for us is that it would contribute to any kind of renovations for the school. And I believe it was $375,000, so that we would have to match. But that then turned from $375,000 to $600,000 or $700,000+. So we are in the process of applying for a grant to double that, the matching funds. And we have already written in our application HVAC. So that's already in the school system's application. So that, I just wanted to share that as one of the steps that we have already taken in an attempt to defray costs.
Dr. Johnson, is that something that the Tobacco Commission can get into as far as the grant goes?
We have not investigated that portion. We do have somebody in-house that is writing the grant for us, but we will, since you brought it up, we will investigate.
The representative to the to the Tobacco Commission is a very friendly guy, and I know wants to do some things for us.
I tell you what, I was at the presentation with Mosley. I was impressed with option 3, the same option that the school board recommending. And I think that's the next thing besides to replacement. So I'm gonna make a move that the Board of Supervisors approve the request from the Prince Edward County Public Schools to move forward with option 3 for a comprehensive renovation of the Prince Edward County Elementary School as identified by Mosley Architects in the presentation dated September 29th and authorized by the Prince Edward County Public Schools to move forward with the procurement of architectural services for the project and to make temporary repairs to the school roofing system as identified by the roofing consultant, April McClevey, estimated at $30,000 to $50,000.
Another motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
It has been properly made and second. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yeah.
Bobby?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou?
Yes.
I'll be in touch and whatever I can do to help.
On behalf of Prince Edward County Public Schools, thank you very much. Thank you very much for engaging in the process.
Thank
We are
you.
very excited.
Thank
And
you
I
for
would
your
just-
work.
I would just like to make a comment. It's commendable that you've already started to apply for that grant. You really want this done, and we want to see that it gets started. Great job.
Get all the free money you can.
If you find any,
Mighty fast.
if you find any free, let me know where it came from, 'cause somebody paid for it.
Yeah.
If it's free, somebody paid for it. That's right.
And we will also investigate the tobacco commission. We will follow.
Anything been said about the data center lately? And where is it at right now?
Well, I think we'll get a little bit of an update a little bit later. I know we're going to talk about Sandy, but the data center project is continuing to move along. The biggest thing, in Chelsea and Timmons have been working hard on applying for funding through the state Sites Ready program, about 1.7 million to, if we can get it up to what's called Tier 4, which means all the engineering, everything's done, it moves it up on the visibility level, and I see Mr. Hines just walked in, but it really raises it on the radar for the state and potential data center companies out there. It really makes it a much more visible project. So we're continuing to make a lot of strides and efforts towards that.
All right, we're going back up to number 15, page 133.
Yes, sir. Currently, and this is another thing that I think, staffs have been working on for the last year, but our county administration files, let's just say they're unorganized from the standpoint, Sarah's laughing back there. We got many duplicates. They're hard, if not impossible, to search. This project would fund the purchase and installation of an electronic document management system. Proposed system will allow users to capture information while automating and transforming business processes. Users find efficiencies by reducing time processes take and giving users access to information instantaneously, resulting in cost savings for the organization. The proposed system will bring the office into the 21st century and improve workflows by providing electronic document storage and management. Basically, you scan the documents in to various folder systems, and then you can go and I can do a keyword search, and I can search Bobby Jones, and everything that Bobby's ever been involved with at the county will pull up as far as the document. We can kind of do that on the website now with minutes, but this will allow us to be able to get all of our files and all the file cabinets into an electronic format. The county is looking to purchase the Laserfish document management software solution from MCCI Professional Services. They're the vendor for the state and have software available in the Virginia state contract. Laserfish is a powerful tool to help users find documents they need during day-to-day processes. The ultimate goal is time and thereby cost savings for the county. The total estimate for software is $28,671.90. Installation, $39,691, and recurring annual subscription support is $10,787 per year. The total cost is $79,149. Moving forward, the county will be responsible for the annual support and subscription cost. The package being purchased will initially serve county administration, includes admin, including finance, HR, CSA, building and planning, but can be expanded by adding licenses to other departments. The initial license allows for up to 10 users, and we won't have that many in our department. Again, additional departments can be added as needed with the cost configuration until we hit the 10-user threshold. MCCI will install the software and provide training. County staff will ultimately be responsible for scanning and loading the documents. We would use the existing server to store data on site at the courthouse. We've already worked that out with Lawson to make sure the IT can handle that. Laserfish is currently being used by a number of counties in Virginia. For those going to the VACO conference, you'll probably see a table on them, but Accomack, Augusta, Campbell, Carroll, Chesterfield, Culpeper, Dinwiddie, Fairfax, Fauquier, Frederick, Hanover, Isle of Wight, Loudoun, Madison, Northumberland, Orange, Page, Pennsylvania, Prince George, Prince William. So we'll be the third and final Prince County to be included. Pulaski, Roanoke, Spotsylvania for social services, Stafford for their Commissioner of Revenue, Surrey, Warren, and York, and I work with the product in Warren. We found it easy to use and liked its security features and the querying capability. I think this just helps us get our house in order and really will allow staff to spend less time digging for stuff and more time for doing work. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Doug, one quick question. It says that the recurring annual subscription is $10,000 the first year and then $7,000.
Let me
Where's the other $3,000 go? Or?
Let me confirm. It changed. It's the $10,787.
So moving forward will be the $10,787
That's correct.
also instead of $7,000.
Yep. Instead of not including.
It'll cost us around $11,000 per year for the.
That's correct, for the licensing and the support, online support.
All right, board, I guess it's up to us to decide what to do.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Would additional county staff be needed? Okay.
No, ma'am. No, and we've got the part-time receptionist up front, and right now we're looking at that position as a person to scan
Okay.
data and put it in. But I'd say anything's better than the current system we have. Sarah, is that a fair to say? But I think Commissioner and Treasurer, I think other offices are going to want to use this once we get it up and get it running. I think it'll be heck of a lot easier for them to access data as well.
I may have missed it. How long, what's the installation period?
You know, I think that's, we've talked about 90 days. I think a lot of that's is going to depend on our capabilities in-house.
Any other questions? All right, it has been a motion made and properly second. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yeah.
Bobby? Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou?
Yes.
All right. Cheryl,
Yes, sir.
flexible spending.
Try to be short and sweet. So we are looking at starting a flexible spending plan for the county employees. It gives them a debit card that they can apply to their co-pays or their pharmacy things or anything that they have to pay out of pocket. It also gives the employer the benefit too because it reduces our FICA net. It looks like if we keep 21 pieces, it's about $100 per month for us. Just want you to approve that for us. To meet with the company.
Similar to the other plans, they call it a bucket.
I'm sorry,
Similar to other plans, they call it the bucket. It's a,
I'm not familiar with that.
yeah, there's several other plans that they call the bucket, which they can dig out of at any time for the co-pays or whatever else.
This is only for medical or child care.
Okay.
Is that would be the only two that they can use it for.
I think it's a nice perk. For real.
And it's pre-tax.
Yeah,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah.
Helps them stretch the dollar, that's all.
Yes,
I'm-
Go ahead.
I move that the board approve the flex spending account made it to eligible employees, made available to eligible employees.
Jerry's made the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly made and second. Ms. Pride?
Yeah.
Myself is yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bobby?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou?
Yes.
The employees, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Trey?
All right, good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Y'all had in front of y'all this evening the EM update on 27th of November.
Yes.
Real short and sweet, numbers are in the, updated numbers are in your red. There has been a good decrease, I would call it. You know, we've kind of flattened out. We're averaging about 2 cases a day right now, which is really good. It's kind of being the same around us. The Piedmont Health District is all in that same pattern right now, which is really good. Hopefully with Thanksgiving coming up and some increase in vaccinations, that'll stay the same. We won't see that spike again. Vaccination rates are at the bottom, slow tick up, but we did have some increase. On the second page, you'll see the numbers that we formulated based on the Longwood and Hampton Sydney students, where we think we really are. It's about 61.7%. So we're getting up there. We're slowly getting there. There are some health departments hosting some events coming up. The first one is tomorrow. They're doing a testing event first from 11 to 2, and then they're doing a vaccination event from 2 to 6. All 3 shots are available, boosters, second shots, and it's for 5 and up. So the new kids' doses will be there also. Then they're going to do a second one, like Dr. Johnson had alluded to earlier, at the Ruby Tuesdays parking lot, the former kiosk area. That's a first responder also appreciation. There'll be some fire trucks out there, police cars, stuff like that. That'll be from 2 to 6 also. Like I said, both of these are 5 and up for all the kids, first, second, or booster shots. Your EMS numbers are on page 3. Again, our public information, we continue to update the vaccination information on the website, Facebook, and message boards. We're still supporting the health department with the clinics at PEFIA. We don't know what their plan's gonna be moving forward for December. They're trying to see how the vaccinations go and how the receptiveness to the community is.
And that's all I got. Do you have any questions?
I had a question for you.
Yes, sir.
You asked me something I didn't know the answer. All right, you have your first 2 initial shots.
Yes.
The booster shot, how long should you wait after your 2 initial shots to get a booster?
6 months? 6 months.
6 months.
6 months. Yep. And there's a, on the health department website, there's an algorithm, you can click on buttons and it'll tell you if you're eligible or not and all that also. So
Okay.
if somebody asks a question, they can go through that process and it'll help them.
Any other questions?
There you go.
Thank you, Trey.
Thank you.
Johnson is a 2-month recommendation.
Yes, 2 months on Johnson & Johnson.
All right, Doug? Nope, I'm wrong. Terry? Terry? That's the truth. While she's coming on, I'll just say, congratulations to everyone who won the race. Looks like that we're all stuck,
Likewise.
we're all stuck here for another 4.
4 years, again.
Congratulations, yes.
Thank you for making it easy for us to, the paperwork you filled out for us.
You're welcome. Staff helped to prod me along on that, gave me a little hint, so I appreciate that. Good evening, everybody. I appreciate everybody's patience with my recovery and my right arm. I shared with Doug, I'm not, hadn't been 100%. I'm only working 8-hour days and not working on weekends, so I'm a little behind in some of the projects, but we've got several upcoming projects involving with the IDA and various things with the Connects deal. Anyway, got some other easement deed that I still need to work on. I've got some few things in my bailiwick that I need to take care of, but be happy to answer any questions, any concerns.
Any questions? Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
Doug.
I appreciate it.
I want to join the chairman congratulating Chairman Emmert, Supervisor Gillum, Townsend, Wilk on your reelection. On behalf of staff, we look forward to working with you on the next 4 years and continuing to carry out your vision and improving the life of citizens, taxpayers of Prince Edward County. Also want to thank you for your support of the bonus for county staff. A lot of your staff have worked really hard during this COVID pandemic, and I appreciate your recognition of each of their efforts. I know the state was going to recognize the sworn officers that are funded by the comp board, but you saw fit to make sure that everybody was covered, and I appreciate that on their behalf. A couple other items. Animal shelter, we received a notice of violation from the Office of Veterinary Services. We've had 30 days to provide a written response. The letter was received on October 25th, and staff is working to address that. Courthouse signage, this is both interior and exterior. Randy Cook's working hard with 2 different vendors to get that hopefully installed within, I'd say, the next 30 to 45 days. We're also working with Mosley Architects, and we're about 95% complete on plans for bidding the replacement chiller. We anticipate being able to put that out to bid by early December. We, like everything else, cost of everything has gone up due to COVID, but we will, this will be a project that'll be bid, so we'll get to see the bids on bid day. Tax bills were mailed out last week, and I appreciate, we're a little behind, but I appreciate the Treasurer and Commissioner of Revenue pushing to get those out ahead of the December 5th tax day. We have received, I know I have, and some of the board members have received calls and emails, particularly referencing vehicle valuations for 2021. I think anybody, if you've gone out and tried to buy a vehicle, vehicle prices, one, if you can find a vehicle, you're lucky, but 2, vehicle prices have been pushed up. The computer chip shortage has really cut down the number of vehicles available. I know our dealers, local dealers here, haven't received anywhere near the number of vehicles. But what that's done is pushed up the value of pre-owned and used vehicles. Supply and demand, greater demand pushes the cost up. And the NADA values that are used for setting assessment for personal property have been pushed up. Now, Prince Edward, we use the clean loan value, which is the lower of the 3 values that are in the book for our assessments. Historically, vehicle values tend to depreciate from month to month, but the predicted value of any vehicle will be lower than the value of that same vehicle the previous, say, January. But in early 2020, vehicle values have been trending the other way, especially dealing with the COVID issues. And just over the summer of 2020, prices increased over 10% for the United States used car market as a whole, and beginning as far back as mid-19, played a part in the values that were set for January of 21. In March of 2020, other factors, the Federal Reserve cut the interest rate to near zero. That provided low interest rates for people to buy vehicles. Also, the manufacturing plants were shut down to produce ventilators and other personal protective equipment, which caused a strain in supply chain. And then large fleet companies such as Hertz and Enterprise chose not to replace the inventory, adding to the shortage of pre-owned vehicles on the market. So that's driving it up, and a lot of values are up on a whole, and I appreciate Supervisor Booth reaching out to me. Total county value of personal property, what's on the books and what was billed for the billing going out, was about $149.8 million, up from about 145.3 last year. That's only about a 3.09% increase. It's not a significant increase. So that's what's billed based on the assessments. I know that individuals with larger increases, just like real estate, when you have a reassessment, some houses will go up and some won't go up as much, or some may go up more. And you're seeing that with some vehicles. I think one of the other things that's kind of gotten people interested was Charlotte County reduced their personal property rate, but I think the important thing to know there is that rather than the clean loan value, they use the clean trade-in value, which is a much higher assessment. And Supervisor Booth, if I misspeak, please correct me, but I think that those values were up 25–30% across the board.
I know they were much higher, yes.
So just as you get feedback, if you have any questions from constituents, please forward that along to me, and I'll be happy to try to get you an answer. But I did want to put that information out. A couple other things I wanted to highlight on. Staff is getting ready to get working with the CRC on our redistricting. We're really waiting at this point for the state to complete its process, which has now been kicked over to the Supreme Court. The problem is that you can't have a split district. So if you have a House district, it can't be split between two county supervisor districts, election districts. So we don't have to do the process twice. We really want to wait until the state completes its process. One of the options had us whole with one House district, and one had us split about 2/3 and 1/3. The good news in the preliminary look at the data, we've only got about 3 districts that are kind of out of compliance, out of the 5%. You can be plus or minus 5% from the ideal district, and we've only got about 3 districts that are outside of those tolerances. So we won't have a whole lot of work to do unless the state splits the county, but we'll be prepared to get started. The other thing was that the CRC is continuing discussions on a new regional economic development initiative. I think the chairman was able to attend one of those meetings. We had a second one on November 1st. Chelsea and I were there to represent Prince Edward. Some good discussions, I think, trying to figure out what is the new, what does it need to look like moving forward now that a bunch of us are out of VGA? And do we want to work together and try to promote the region together? Because the state really doesn't want to work with a bunch of individual localities. They want to work with some type of regional effort. But we want something that's going to, I think, deliver more return on investment than this board saw with VGA. So hopefully we'll have something to come back to the board with before too long. And the last thing, this meeting marks, next week is the year that I've been here. And I think we've gotten a lot accomplished in the last year. And I appreciate all the support of the board. Went back and was looking at some of the things we've been able to address, and we're making a lot of progress. And on behalf of the staff, we appreciate your support, and hopefully we're carrying out your vision and getting things done. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Joe. Sandy River Reservoir update.
There we go. All right, thank you, Chairman Emmert. First of all, like everybody else, congratulations to the supervisors, Supervisor Wilk, Supervisor Townsend, Supervisor Gillum, and Supervisor Emmert for your reelection. Glad to see y'all gonna have the stability for the next 4 years of y'all's leadership as well. What we're gonna do tonight is kind of provide you a little bit of a permit update, and I realize we hadn't given you necessarily the big overview yet, so we'll do that as part of our discussions with the state and other people. We'll talk a little bit about the permit renewal we just put in. Then Justin Curtis with Aqualaw here will talk about the permitting process and what to expect moving forward, and then we'll just have Q&A as far as that's concerned. So to give you a quick overview, the Sandy River Reservoir, is, as most of you are aware, is a long-term water project, 740 acres. It was first originally conceived in 1967 when they did essentially did a study of 7 different watersheds to determine where to put this reservoir. I think it's ironic, if you look at the 50-year pages within the Farmville Herald, you're starting to see a whole series of articles about discussions between the town, the county, and bond issuances. So I think that almost kind of reiterates the importance of what we have here and how valuable of an asset that is to the county, because it's taken us this long to get this far. We obviously had a VWP issued in 2006, and that was, we just submitted the permit renewal application September 3rd of 2021. So the project purpose, what we were doing is we were essentially submitting this water withdrawal permit application as a renewal for the one that just recently expired. And the intent is for you to develop a water system utilizing Sandy River as a resource. We're starting to see that state water wars are starting really to heat up now. It's becoming a big issue. The state has I believe they still have a draft state water mandate or state water control board. The good news is Senator Monty Mason is actually going to be overseeing the state water committee next year. He and I had a conversation last week at the Virginia Rural Center here. So to give you kind of the bigger picture overview, this is a picture of Sandy River Reservoir, where it's located relative to the town of Farmville and Nottoway County line. It's about equidistant between the two, and it's very conveniently located just off of Route 460 near Rice, Virginia. The other perspective we also wanted to provide was when you look downstream, the blue line is essentially the Appomattox River, where the reservoir discharges in the Appomattox River and works its way down to Lake Chesden, which is the primary water source for the Appomattox River Water Authority, which serves a multitude of localities in that region, from Chesterfield to Petersburg to Prince George to Dinwiddie and Hopewell, and I believe there's another town in there that serves as well. So just kind of give you a little bit of an idea of where we are in terms of what would be constructed and what we've shown as part of this permit. This is Sandy River Reservoir. We have a defined intake site, generally within close proximity to the dam. You own this county property. It's adjacent to the public access to go to the reservoir, in which you would potentially construct a treatment plant right next to the road, getting ready to head back out to 460. Back in the permit that just expired, it had a 6.3 million gallon a day maximum day withdrawal for an average of 3.7 million gallons a day. And all that infrastructure would be built and included on the county-owned property, so you wouldn't need to acquire any additional property for building the base infrastructure. Keep hitting the wrong button here. So these are the water demands that were included in the application. We had to use projections based on 30-year demand, but they issued the permit for 15 years out. But they wanted to make sure that you have the reasonable projections for that time period. Usually it's based upon your water supply plans, other demand letters that we've gotten. We've gotten support from, obviously we'll serve Prince Edward County residents Hampton, Sydney, Farmville, and Longwood had given us their demands, and then Burkeville and potential regional industrial park, and then industrial development in particular to include the data center site here in Farmville, just outside of Farmville. One thing that we noted in our research for data center sites, Google has applied for multiple permits across the country looking for 4 million gallons a day at ultimate build-out for their data center facilities, 1 million gallons a day initially. So we've tried to incorporate what we viewed as a reasonable number for the data centers in this application as well. So Justin, you kind of want to take over from here?
Evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just a couple quick points on the status of the permitting. As Mr. Hines mentioned, submitted a joint permit application in September. Let's get to the next slide. Wrong way. And this is the last slide. That joint permit application, just so you're aware, is requesting 3 significant permit approvals from 3 different agencies that we need to begin construction. The first one is a permit from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. We need that because the intake is in the reservoir and that's regulated by the Corps. There's an outfall into the Sandy River, that's regulated by the Corps. And then the little water line crosses one little stream, also regulated by the Army Corps. We need, second, we need a permit from the Department of Environmental Quality, also State Water Control Board, same entity there. We need that permit for the same reasons. They also regulate those impacts to streams and wetlands. More significantly, though, DEQ regulates water withdrawals. So we need that permit from DEQ. It's one permit, but it covers both of those things, those stream and wetland impacts as well as the water withdrawals. And that's the most significant of the permits we need. It's the one that'll probably take the longest amount of time. And that's primarily because DEQ has to go through a technical review process before determining how much water they're going to authorize you to pull out of the reservoir. Notwithstanding that it's your reservoir and you own it, you still need a permit under state law from DEQ and the Water Control Board to make use of that water. The last permit and approval we need is the Virginia Marine Resources Commission. I'll put a question mark next to that one. We have an impact that appears to maybe require VMRC permitting. We also have a letter recently saying that we don't need a permit from VMRC. We're going to get that clarified. But in any event, as far in the hierarchy, that's the least time intensive and that's not the easiest permit to get, but that's the one that's not the one that will drive the timeline. So that's somewhat of a footnote in the whole process. I will add there's one sub-bullet there. We did get some good news from the Virginia Department of Historic Resources last month. If you've been following some of the permitting issues around the state, one of the most significant issues that can add time, in some cases years, on the permitting processes is the sign-off and concurrence from the Department of Environmental Historic Resources, for cultural and historical, archaeological impacts. And even though the formal process hasn't started yet, we've got a tentative determination from them that they agree that there's nothing at the site that requires a more formal review. So that was very good news we got last month. So the next steps, just a high-level summary of what the next steps are. We're anticipating, we filed that application. We haven't gotten much feedback from the agencies. We're expecting sometime in the near future, just based on normal, typical course. What normally would happen is we would get we get information requests and start a dialogue with those agencies. Usually they're going to ask us for more information, and that's common. Then that will begin, we'll provide that information. Once they have all the information they need, they'll engage in their own technical reviews. And like I said, DEQ is really the one that has the longest, most intensive technical review because they go through a modeling exercise before determining how much water they're going to allow you to withdraw from a water body, a surface water. There will be a public comment period for each of the agencies, and I'll do it a little bit differently, but it's all more or less the same. Army Corps permit public comment period. I take that back. It depends on the type of permit. They may or may not have a public comment. DEQ will absolutely have a public comment, and VMRC will as well. And finally, the agency decisions obviously come at the end. They don't all have to come at the same time. We would anticipate VMRC and DEQ around the same time, and then the Army Corps to follow shortly thereafter. That concludes everything I had for you. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
What do you anticipate the cost of the water plant if we get to that point?
I'll have to defer to Mr. Hines on that one.
Well, yeah, that would be driven by a series of things. One is what the initial build out would be, and then where we would build out the initial system. Currently, we were thinking somewhere between 1 and 2 million gallons a day, but we haven't costed that out at this point in time. But a lot of that will depend upon who the initial users are, and if you have a substantial volume in certain locations, that could help drive that, and maybe what their long-term demand.
So we talking, I mean, 20, 30 million, something like that?
I can't put a number on this point in time.
I think it was that much, 15.
It was that much 15 years ago, and I think you heard Mr. Stanley talk about construction prices. To give you an idea of what is going on in the construction market, it used to be pipe suppliers when they bid a project would get a 60-day quote, then it got pushed down to 30-day quote, then it got pushed down to 7-day quote, and now there are contractors, they're getting, the suppliers saying, you'll get the price the day we deliver the pipe. And so the construction market is really, like everything else, semiconductor chips is really kind of starting to accelerate up. Now, it's not crazy, but historically, when you're looking at a 3 or 4 year % annual increase, we're seeing anywhere between 6 and 10 for some of the supplies that are out there that require this type of work.
And to pay off the plant, do we anticipate, I mean, I know nothing's finalized, but that maybe Burkeville and some other people will be involved as far as
Yeah,
generating
our
funds?
hope is that we would have project partners, potentially outside the county. Obviously, that would drive the rates and financials if people outside the county do commit to the project. Obviously, there's some negotiations and discussions that would have to take place once we've got a better definition of the project that it should be. Most important thing was we got the permit application filed. This document, which actually is 988 pages with the permit. So, hopefully it answers the questions that they have will be already answered here and more minimal questions to be raised. But as Mr. Curtis alluded to, I've yet to do these permits where we haven't gone through 3 or 4 rounds of questions as far as the state's concerned. So,
I'm not opposed to this, I'm just, trying to get an idea.
Any other questions from the board? Comments?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate the update.
Do we still go to DEQ in Danville or Martinsville, or has that been eliminated?
it's
Richmond.
For the reports, we're going to skip the closed session for a split second. All monthly reports are just
Information.
for your information to begin with. No, nothing needs to be done on that, so. 207 through 218 is just information. Closed session.
Yep.
I'm waiting. No problem, go ahead. Got you. Consideration of the annual performance and salary of the county administrator as directed by a signed contract pursuant to the exemptions provided for in section 2.2, 3711A1 of the Code of Virginia. You ready? I'm good. All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been properly made and second. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself is yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
Bobby?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou?
Yes.
That's right, that's practice.
Welcome to the Prince Edward
Let me
County
stay
Culver's
down.
Line. Please stand by. You'll be joined in shortly. You are the host. Press star now. Otherwise, please wait, and you will be joined into the conference. Please enter your PIN followed by the pound or hash. If you do not know your PIN, please enter pound or hash.
All right, Patty, read again.
I move the Board of Supervisors certify to the best of each member's knowledge that only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under the chapter, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard, discussed, or considered in the meeting by the public body.
I'm gonna second that. Roll call vote. Ms. Pride?
No.
Myself is a no. Patty?
No.
Beverly?
No.
Jim? No. Bobby? Jerry?
No.
And Lou?
No.
All right. Is there anything else that anyone knows of? Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Chairman, you will wish to vote on the Timmons, contract in open session,
Other than, I make a motion, we honor,
phase 3.
there you go.
In the amount of $75,000.
$75,000, yeah.
All right, there's been a motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Someone got that because I'm off my sheet here. You got me? All right, roll call vote again. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim? Jerry? Jared? Lou?
Yes.
All right, now, hold on one second. All right, now, in open session, a motion to continue the contract with the provisions already discussed, correct?
So
Right.
moved.
So,
All
second.
right, been a motion made by Patty, seconded by Jerry. Ms. Pride?
Yes.
Myself is a yes. Patty?
Yes.
Beverly?
Yes.
Jim? Yes. Bobby?
Yes.
Jerry?
Yes.
And Lou? All right. Is that all the motions and that you know that we need?
Want to adjourn?
Yeah, I got that written down right here. So we do our adjourning until December, is that correct? No recess. All right, Bobby has made a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right.
Those going to,
Vaco.
y'all have a good trip and enjoy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Beverly?
4.
4? Well, good.
Jerry, I thought you were going.
No.
Oh. Yes.
Jim, Bobby, Jerry,
Yes.
and Lou.
Yes.
Yes.
I will.